What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ. Oh, hi, Mark, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast. On this week's episode, Joel and I are joined by Bryan Sudfield, and we are going to talk about the world of movie news and movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys. Then we will have our joint review of The Disaster Artist, the new James Franco directed film where they tackle the real-life making of the film The Room back in 2003. Should be a lot of fun. And then Joel will have a bunch of mini reviews, so that should also be fun. So what are we going to think about The Disaster Artist? Are we going to like it, dislike it? Are we going to differ all over the place? What's going to happen? Well, you're going to have to sit down, relax, and find out. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast, where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey guys, listen, if you stumbled across the internet to search up The Room porn, and you accidentally came across this podcast episode and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully we can convince you to be one, and hopefully you succeed in finding the porn parody of The Room. So anyways, if you're new to the show, welcome. What we typically do is we'll go over some movie news and movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week, and we will commentate on them for you guys, and then we will have our review of a big movie coming out on the weekend, or a small movie, whatever comes out, and then box office results to accompany that. This is episode 209, so we're still going. We ain't dead yet, so that's fun. Anyways, that is what we're doing today on this show, is episode 209, and we're going to be doing The Disaster Artist. This is the movie that is based on a book, based on a terrible movie, based on an enigma named Tommy Wiseau. Should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. So before I introduce the other co-host and our guest, go ahead and spread this episode around, and share it, like it, whatever you have to do, and let people know this is the definitive podcast that you're going to listen to while you're sitting on the shitter. All right, so let's go over to the co-host over there, Mr. Joel. Joel, how are we doing this week?
We're pretty good. It's been an eventful week for me at the old homestead, and work has been hectic, entering Christmas time, so a lot of people buying. Somebody stole some stuff yesterday. It's been a lot of fun. So otherwise, watching movies like a madman. So lots this week, especially considering I'm leading up to Star Wars with all of the other movies, on top of the stuff that I have to review and all that. So it's been pretty crazy. How's it been for you?
Oh, I was with you last weekend, and we made out. Yes. We had a good time. We had a good date. We powered through about 8 screeners, which was pretty great. And then I watched a lot of them this week, so my eyes are bleeding. Please send help. I'm starting to recover from dry eye screener syndrome, so that's been a lot of fun. And of course, I saw The Greatest Showman today. All right, so we have a guest on the show this week, and he has been on once before. Bryan Sudfield, B-Suds, the B-Suds man, my top 5 co-host. That show is it's on life support right now. We haven't completely killed it. It's like our grandparents. We just keep feeding it, and it's our little vegetable podcast. So, Bryan, how are we doing this week?
This week has been pretty interesting for me. I saw Jumanji. Then I had a job interview.
I saw Jumanji as well. I wanted to die. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to say if I want to die or live, but nah. Yeah, I had a job interview yesterday. That went well. It snowed very much here in the state of Jersey New. And today I went to a convention called the Walker Stalker Con, which is known as the Walker Dead Convention. So I met 3 people that I consider so pivotal in my life. I met Ron Perlman. So I met fucking Hellboy today, which is amazing. Also, he's the Sons of Anarchy, which is one of my favorite shows, so that's great. Christian Soretos, who plays Rosita on the show, and she was Susie Crabgrass on the critically acclaimed Nickelodeon show, Nancy Classified School Survival Guide. A huge part of my childhood, so great. And then Stephen Ogg, Trevor from GTA 5. He is known as I forgot his character's name on the show because I haven't watched in like 2 months. So Nah, but it was a fun day. I might get sick because, people in the conventions and all the germs and stuff, but you know what? It is what it is. But it's been pretty good. I mean, I haven't seen Chase in like 3 months. I mean, now I'm seeing the huge scruff. I know he said he wasn't going to get rid of it, but oh my God. It's awesome. It's so cool. And but yep, that's it with me. So yeah, and then coming up, so yay.
So Bryan, you're in college, and so since I haven't seen you in a while, have you successfully butt chugged beer yet?
No.
Oh, okay, well that's lovely. Thank you for the update. So Bryan is in college. He's drunk half the time. We have no idea what's going on, but I'll see him when he graduates. All right, so yes, gentlemen, welcome to the show. And so without any further ado, let's get this started, guys. This week in movie news has been pretty interesting to say the least. Now, I think the first one needs to be introduced as I guess how would you say, like, I don't know, like maybe beam me up, Scotty, you motherfucker type of deal. Like, maybe we should introduce it like that. So anyways, the first story, Mr. Quentin Tarantino, he is behind such films as pretty much every R-rated grindhouse movie from the 90s. And of course, Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained is his newer stuff. And, he's pretty prolific, even though he's only made 8 films so far. So he is being tapped because he pitched an idea to Paramount and J.J. Abrams to possibly write and direct a Star Trek movie. Now,
correction, he's not going to write it, but go ahead.
Thank you, Joel. Let me finish the story first. Anyways,
okay.
The initial story, when it was broken, is that he was tapped to write and direct this movie. There wasn't really much known detail, and I don't think they knew really much anyways. But the story at that point was just that he has talked to Paramount and J.J. Abrams to possibly be involved in a new Star Trek somehow. So then the story kind of develops, where yes, Joel is right. He's not being tapped to write it anymore. The front runner is the guy that wrote The Revenant, and he might be in talks to direct, produce, whatever. He's still involved with it somehow. So that was the story. And so everyone's already losing their goddamn minds over it. That's fine. But even bigger is that one of the stipulations when he was in that writer's room was that he wanted it to be rated R. Now listen, I don't know about you guys, but I want to see some alien titties. I'm totally cool with that, so I want to see this come to fruition. I mean, we saw the 2009 Star Trek where Captain Kirk was sleeping with that green alien. I just want to see her butt naked now. If we're going to R-rate this thing, let's amp it up. No, but seriously though, Quentin Tarantino being involved with the Star Trek movie, possibly directing it, even producing it for God's sake, is awesome. Like, because the thing is with him is that he doesn't want to do blockbusters. He always wants to do his own thing. But when you kind of read into like his likes and dislikes, he likes Star Trek, and so I think this would be kind of an interesting route to go if this would be his number 10 film after this Manson movie. And so I'm not really much of a Star Trek fan, but I have like these kind of reincarnations, with the 2 J.J. Abrams ones, and then of course the Justin Lin one with Star Trek Beyond. I really enjoyed that one. It was like watching a high-budgeted episode of the TV show. And so I'm curious about it. I'm not completely sold on it, but I think if you were not a Star Trek fan, this should get your nips excited and pointy. And so, and also being an R-rated one, I was joking about the nudity thing. I don't think there's going to be nudity. I honestly don't think there's going to be any curse words. R-rated in a Star Trek film means they're probably just going to amp up the violence a little bit. Have a little blood, maybe some head decapitations of Klingons. I don't give a fuck. I don't know. So I'm curious about this. I want to kind of see it now because if you're going to drop this little nugget of information, you can't just retract now. I have to see a Tarantino somewhat-esque Star Trek, so I am curious about it, especially as a Tarantino fan. So Bryan, I'll go over to you first. How does this news strike you, and does an R-rated Star Trek movie even work?
I don't know what to think of this. As much as I love Tarantino, I love everything that he's done. And I appreciate what Star Trek has done for this generation. Could an R-rated Star Trek movie work? It all depends. Now, if he directs this, see, here's the thing with me when it comes to him. Like, I appreciate when he does like his own stuff. Like when he does a franchise movie, I'm not really a big fan of it. Like now, like if Kill Bill Volume 3 ends up being his 10th film, which I don't think it will be, That would be awesome. But him doing a Star Trek movie, I don't know what to think of it right now. I want to wait a little while until we get more about this. I think it could work depending on the context of it and what goes into it and everything. Him direct, I'm sure it would come out so cool and everything. And if he has a huge passion for Star Trek, that's awesome. Then clearly there's going to be something beautifully put in this film. But I don't know how I feel entirely about this. And then with the screenwriter, The Revenant was great and everything, but the script was the weakest aspect of the movie. I mean, there wasn't enough dialogue in it to begin with, but I don't know how I feel quite yet. I'm not against it, but I'm not in love with this news story.
Yeah, it's really interesting you bring up the kind of little dialogue in The Revenant, because now he's going to go into a franchise that has a lot of dialogue, so that's funny.
Yeah.
So Joel, what say you? Because we haven't really discussed this. So, first of all, why do you hate Tarantino so much? Because I know you and I differ a lot. And then, what do you think about this?
Yeah, Tarantino's a hack. No.
Oh shit! You are immediately fired.
Here's the thing. I kind of wish. I mean, Tarantino's a strong director, no doubt about it. I think that Pulp Fiction is impressively directed. Jackie Brown's probably his most impressive filmmaking that he's ever done. And Inglourious Basterds is certainly up there, especially in terms of the cinematography he was able to call out of Robert Richardson and all that. I kind of wish he was writing it, though, because it would interest me a little bit more. Certainly I'm interested in the concept of an R-rated Tarantino movie in the Star Trek universe. To slightly sort of kind of correct Bryan, he hasn't done any franchise stuff. Kill Bill is volume 1 and 2. It's a whole movie. It's not a series. He's done franchise stuff before, but only on television. He directed an episode of ER and a 2-parter of CSI. I think CSI. Anyway, yeah, CSI, because I've seen it. So he's not really done anything in a franchise. The only thing that really, I guess qualifies is that Jackie Brown, I think, featured a character featured in other Elmore Leonard novels. Might be wrong about that, but I think that's the closest he's come. So I think it's interesting, but I really wish he was writing it not because I want it to be filled with language. I don't think it would be. I'm sort of like Chase. I don't think that it would be, because Tarantino writes characters how he feels they would talk. So it's regional, and in this case, it's going to be, out in space, in a period of time far in the future when they become a bit more civilized, and I think that they have less use for cursing than we do right now. That's been a thing in the series before, is that civilization has furthered itself to some degree, that they don't need money anymore. They don't have religion in this future, different things, and I feel like language would be one of those things where maybe a few words here and there, but what I think he would do is he would fill it with dialogue that is relevant to the series and make it sound literate, and without making it sound like it's purely a bunch of exposition, because that's his gift, is he's able to have dialogue and conversations that are purely exposition and not make them sound like they are. So I kind of wish he was writing it. Screenwriter Revenant, that's fine. I disagree. I think with Bryan, I think that the screenplay is strong. The way that it maps itself out, a screenplay isn't just dialogue. So I think that the dialogue thing didn't really bother me, because it was a story about survival featuring one guy who didn't have anybody to talk to. He would have no use for dialogue unless he was talking to himself, and that would be lazy. So I think that the way that the movie mapped itself out was impressive. It's also not really something that we can compare because it's such a different project. So I'm up for anything in that regard. We'll see. We'll see, first of all, if it even happens. Because it feels like this would be so ballsy that it made the decision to remake All the Money in the World a month before it comes out seem like child's play for Sony, because it's a big move for them.
Sony.
To It's Sony, right?
Paramount.
Oh, Paramount. I confuse all these companies. They're all the same thing at this point, right? I mean, they're conglomerate. Disney's about to be Fox. Disney's about to be Fox, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, certainly, it would be ballsy for Paramount to do that, and and actually keeping on that, it's kind of in line with their decisions recently.
Yeah, they just spent $30 million on Mother.
Yeah,
so
I mean, and lost money on it. So,
well, and speaking of losing money, listen. As much as I liked this kind of new incarnation of Star Trek movies, they've been kind of going down revenue-wise. So if they're going to be doing a Tarantino kind of led project, it's going to be a minimal budget type of thing, because even with his most expensive movies, they're not even that expensive compared to most movies nowadays. So I think the idea that maybe he pitched them maybe has like a financial sting to it, where it's like, okay, I think we can make that for a pretty low budget and not take. They'll
probably use the $6 billion they make from Bumblebee.
To
be able to use this.
Hey, listen, those Transformers movies, give them the opportunity to do Mother and like The Quiet Place and all the other shit they want to take a risk on. So yeah, we'll have to see. But just like what Joel said, I have no idea if this is going to even come to fruition anyway. So the next piece of news involves one of the actor and director of the movie that we're going to be talking about, and that'd be Mr. Franco James himself. The man that's just everywhere. He likes to just pop his head in every single project. He's not even invited at this point. He just kind of comes on set, they allow it, and then he's in the movie. So there's a story floating around, because he has a project every single day, that he is going to direct and star in a biopic about artist and cartoonist Shel Silverstein, and I probably mispronounced that. That's fine. Anyways, I had to look this guy up because I had no idea who he was, and obviously, if they're making obviously if they're making a movie about him, I have to make sure I know the type of work he's done and all that stuff. And so I looked him up, and then I realized, okay, I'm aware of his stuff. Like, I was looking at just every single piece of entertainment that he's done. And I go, yes, okay, I get it now. So, but him doing this, sure. I don't know much about the artist in question, gotta be honest with you. But after doing research, it seems like a type of character that James can sink his teeth into. And here's the thing. After seeing The Disaster Artist, I will let the guy do anything now. The fact that he performed as a guy to where we don't know the origins from, the age, the pure mystery enigma that is Tommy Wiseau. If he can pull that off, he can pull anything off. So, like I said, I don't have much research on this, but maybe Joel could take it away and give a little more insight. But I'm down for this. But man, Joel keeps making the same joke every week. Does this guy ever sleep? Does he have enough adequate sleep to do his projects? Because this is getting ridiculous. Because you hear about this movie, and then you hear about him being in Multiple Man, and he's probably another HBO show under his belt already. It's just ridiculous. So, Joel, take it away. Is this something you're excited about? Is this something he can nail? Do you know much about Shel? Please give me some insight.
Weirdly enough, I don't know a huge amount about his life. I know that he didn't really pay attention to any poets in any major sense, even though he was a poet. You'd think that if he's a poet, he'd read other poetry. He didn't so much. That's one significant thing I know. But honestly, like, this guy's poetry and in his children's books were a central part of my childhood. And they are still enjoyable. I still have the book somewhere. I'm looking at the bookcase, and I think they're somewhere on there. But like A Light in the Attic, and all of these things, it's just like, it's just an amazing amount of material here for a story. He wrote songs, and it's just an amazing life. I didn't know much about it, and I don't want to tell too much just because we're gonna have a movie about it. But nevertheless, he began to draw when he was a kid. He went to he was first published in the Roosevelt Torch at the Roosevelt University. he became one of the leading cartoonists in Playboy at some point, interestingly enough, considering his later career. And so it's just a very interesting life, kind of all over the place. And Franco's, as you said, after his performance in the movie that we're about to talk about, I'd pretty much like to hand it over to him. Just to, I defer to him basically, because he's a great actor, and this sounds like something that he would be able to make into a really, really good show. A really good show. I just looked at the word "show" on this page, and I just said "show." A really good movie. But Bryan, are you familiar with Shel Silverstein?
When I was a kid, I think my mom read The Given Tree to me. I can't tell you if that's the truth or not, but I remember some part of my childhood I did read that book, whether it be in school, at home. I don't really remember. I didn't realize that this was the guy who made that book. Other than that, I really don't know much of his work, and obviously I don't really know much about his life. I think this is something right up James Franco's alley. I could definitely see him pulling off a role like this, and yeah, after The Disaster Artist, this is definitely something that he could do. And when it comes to the direction, I think this is something that he could pull off very, very well. At least I hope he does. And my question for this is: this going to be a movie that for all families, or is this going to be like a Saving Mr. Banks type of deal where it's for families, but it's more so for mature audiences? Like, that's what I'm wondering, because I'm reading articles. I can't really find some valid information regarding that. But I'm definitely interested to see what Franco does with the storyline and how he portrays Silverstein and everything. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in this for sure.
Yeah. What's weird about Franco is that he directs and stars in a lot of his stuff, but he also just solely directs stuff. And now I've seen a couple of his movies that he just solely directed with him not even appearing in the movie. Well, one of them he appeared in the movie, was a very small role, and I actually don't really like those movies. I actually like when he directs and stars in it, oddly enough, and I don't really care for that. So I'm curious to see how this kind of plays out. What I'm not curious about, and this shit needs to stop. Joel, did we talk about it last time on how Disney is basically bending over Fox and inserting their giant Mickey Mouse dick inside of their rectum and having their way? So, okay. So when we were talking about Disney possibly buying some of the aspects, not all of them, aspects of 20th Century Fox, including their television and movie divisions, because 20th Century Fox wants to just be all about sports and news now, which they don't need to, but Disney is in the lead right now to purchase it for an ungodly amount of money, and so now a new report has come out saying they're extremely close to signing something, and something will be announced literally at the time of this recording this following week. I'm still not on board with this. Now, I thought about maybe something they could do, because I know a lot of people are worried about, what's going to happen with Deadpool, what's going to happen with these X-Men films that have kind of had this more mature theme about them, and including some that have been rated R. What is going to happen if it goes under the Mouse House? Here's what should happen. Obviously, they can't call it 20th Century Fox, because you can't be doing that, because they're not selling their name, they're just selling divisions of their company. What they should do is exactly what they did in the 90s. Speaking of Tarantino, did you guys know that Pulp Fiction is a Disney film? Disney owned parts of Miramax and Touchstone back in the day. The Miramax is the one that released Pulp Fiction. There go, Pulp Fiction is a Disney film. Now, if they're going to do this, I don't agree with this entirely, but obviously Disney is going to strong arm 20th Century Fox, and they're basically going to own everything in the world, and they're going to be our emperor and god in the future. If they're going to do this, they need to have kind of like an adult division within the Disney company. Don't call it Disney, just call it something else, and you have and harbor all of your kind of like adult going entertainment in that division. That way, no one really associates the Disney brand and families with that brand. They're completely separate names. It's kind of like how they do with Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios. Has anyone ever noticed they don't ever put the Disney logo in front of Star Wars films now or Marvel films, and that's because they want to keep it separate. So if they're going to do this, they need to keep it separate. I am not on board with this idea. I hate this thing because this is going to lead down to a dangerous road. Now, I know Joel and I don't run a business podcast, but I will tell you guys this is terrifying because if they do acquire their film and TV divisions, this is going down some slippery slope where they're basically going to be, Disney's going to be a monopoly. They're already on that way, but at this point, if they get this, it's scary to know that Sony could go bankrupt, Paramount could go bankrupt, and they could scoop that shit up, and everything is going to be under the mouse house. And at that point, it's going to be really tough for anyone to kind of break through. And it kind of worries me a little bit, but whatever, it's business. I have no control over it. But if they want to spend the $60, $70 billion on this shit, whatever. I'm not in favor of it, but if they're going to do it, they should have a separate division. So, Bryan, I'm going to ask you this. First of all, I haven't talked to you about this. Are you even okay with this idea? And if they do acquire their movies and their television stuff, obviously, do you think they should keep it under a different house? And do you think they should keep everything rated R and mature? Because that's going to piss a lot of people off.
Ever since this whole debacle was announced, it's pissed me off so much. And, it's something that film majors here and television, anything in the communications department, we haven't stopped talking about this news for the last however long this has been going on. And, I understand your plan, like your idea, and I think that would be the best thing to do if this all comes to fruition and then Disney buys Fox. But I just don't. This all hurts my head so much. Disney's buying everything at this point. Disney's probably going to buy my campus at one point, and so
Welcome to Montclair University, presented by Disney.
Walt Disney, Montclair University. Wow,
that's probably what's going to happen. But no. But honestly, I can't take this whole Disney buying everything news story, especially with this whole Fox thing. It's going to piss me off if they do end up buying it, which at this point I feel like they're going to do it. If they surprisingly don't, that's great. That's fantastic. But yeah, no, I don't like this at all.
Well, let's throw it over to Joel. I mean, Joel, do you share the sentiments that Bryan and I have expressed, or are you on the opposite side of the coin?
Oh no, I share them.
Okay.
It's tiresome. It's tiresome and tiring that they would keep going after stuff. I mean, they bought the entirety of Star Wars with cash, and at this point, I feel like that pretty much tells us cash and shares. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know. Essentially cash. I think $4 billion of it was in cash. So, yeah. I mean, it's a monopoly. And it's tiring. Like I've said before, I mean, they're inches away of essentially buying all of the United States, which, Bob Iger, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility with that guy. He's not a good person. So, yeah, it's really worrisome, to be completely honest, that we're about to see this happen. The conglomerization of the corporatization of all of this stuff is very worrisome to me, and I don't want to see this happen. I think that eventually, though, if they do this, honestly, I feel like at some point they will go out of business, because I think that they're going to take on too much, and they're not going to know how to delegate all of it in a way that favors all of these products that they're taking on, and it's just going to reach the point where they just start spending too much for movies, and they know how to market well now, but what about the point where they start having to market against each other and or market within themselves? It'll be very interesting to see, what happens by the middle of, say, the century, by 2050 or something, when all of this has kind of become the mouse house, that's it. You know, it's the Mouse House. It's no longer Disney. It's all of this. It's all of this stuff. And yeah, I completely share your both of your thoughts on this. It's weird and worrying and greedy. It's greed driven, certainly, and I don't know, man. It's a whole new world.
It's really, when I first heard about this, it was odd to hear because 20th Century Fox has had a great 2 years. Regardless of their superhero films, like other films, like little nuggets that have kind of popped up, I've enjoyed. And it's like, well, why are you guys selling this shit off? Like, I realize, like, I mean, if they want to go into the news and sports business, and that's when they want to focus on, I mean, God forbid Fox fucking News, but I mean, if that's what they want to focus on, I mean, they can do whatever they want, but it's like, if your movie studios are doing pretty damn well, like, I don't get it. I really don't, but I mean, but that's what I've heard about Bob Iger, is that he strong arms people. He will force people to sell their shit. Like, he's approached Lucas so many times on to sell Lucasfilm, and I think George just gave up and was like, fine, fuck it, whatever, like, I'll get my $4 billion and run away, like, I don't want you to talk to me again. So I mean,
yeah, I mean, he's talked about that in interviews where he was just not happy with Force Awakens because he felt like it was a throwback, and he didn't want it, you know, in his vision it wouldn't have been a retro movie, as he called it, and so he certainly talked about that. You know, he even, you know, there was a controversy when he called them white slavers, and that's certainly how he feels about them. You know, at the core, probably not actually something that serious as a comparison. I think that he was just being sarcastic, but he had a controversy by calling them that, and it certainly is telling that he would use that word or those words to describe them, because, you know, it just seems like it's true, where they oversee everything, and it's becoming a president business situation where soon we're gonna have Walt Disney Presents ballot machines. You know, I don't know. It's just a crazy bit of news.
It's a slippery slope, and I don't think people understand the kind of harsh reality that if this goes through, Disney's going to eventually buy everything, and it's quite sad. But speaking of terrible, depressing studio news, you know, Disney is buying up stuff, and Warner Brothers is doing a humongous shakeup. But this doesn't surprise me after the kind of less than financial status of Justice League. This is actually really big, and no one has been talking about this, but
probably because of the Disney stuff.
Exactly, Disney overshadows everything. Fuck it. But Warner Brothers actually did what Disney does, and they had DC Films on a separate, you know, building on their lot, and like they had their own little division, and they didn't, you know, touch them or talk to them, and that's probably why the movies have suffered, because they don't communicate. But that's neither here nor there. But this is a huge piece of news. So Warner Bros. Actually wants to restructure DC entirely. So they've actually kicked off the current head of DC Films, John Bergen. They've actually shifted him within the studio to be a kind of partner along another producer named Roy Lee, who was actually one of the producers on It, which that was a huge success for Warner Brothers. And Jeff Johns, who is a comic book writer, you know, he was a part of this DC crew, and now he's being demoted as a consultant, basically. And so, and now they want to take the DC, you know, building and just shift it over into the studio now, and it's just going to be all under one house now. And so this is big. I mean, because they took a risk. You know, when BVS came out, you know, they were their own studio. Hoorah! They had that whole slate come out, if you guys remember. And then after each movie has come out, you know, excluding Wonder Woman, it's just been getting just basted with shit from the critics. And so at this point, you know, with the money going down, that's not what they want to see. They just had to do something about it. And hey, got to give them props. They found a problem, or they realized there was a problem and did their thing. But there was also, I mean, we're not going to talk about this, but there was a rumor going around that some of the heads of Warner Brothers was trying to push out Justice League for monetary reasons, and that's fucking disgusting. If that's true, then they can go fuck themselves. But with this piece of news, this doesn't surprise me. They need to get their shit together, figure out what they want to do. Now, this isn't one of those scenarios to where after Justice League, isn't doing that well, they could just restructure everything. They're in a tight bind. I actually, to be honest with you, if I was in charge of Warner Brothers, I wouldn't know what to do. Because think about this. Wonder Woman was a success. So you want to continue that on some way, shape, or form. So Gal Gadot is in. And then you also have Aquaman in the can. You can't just waste that and not release it. So what do you do after that? Do you just reboot? But if you reboot, you should do it entirely. But do you keep Gal Gadot and switch everyone else out? Or you switch everyone else out? Like, I honestly don't know how they could fix it. And I'm a fan of 3 out of the 5 of them. So I don't... They took a risk. I applaud it. And I actually like Snyder's vision. So... but it's just not. It's not working for people. They got to restructure it. So, I mean, Bryan, we haven't discussed this at all. First of all, just brief, 30-second to a minute. What did you think of Justice League, and does this shakeup surprise you?
Well, because of my very busy schedule.
Oh yeah,
I still have
you were
not
chugging
seen
beer out of your
Justice
ass.
I still have not seen Justice League. So I really can't comment on that. And I've heard mixed things from all my friends here at school and all my friends at home and all my friends, you two and everything. Yeah,
you don't need to rush out to it.
Exactly. I've been focusing on all the indies, the Oscar films, and obviously Star Wars. Like, those are my main focus. Justice League I will see soon. I have to see before it leaves the theater. With all this going on, it's really hard to describe how I feel, because ever since BVS really came out, this whole DC cinematic universe and DC films thing has been all over the place, thinking about what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, switching films all around, removing cast members, saying people are leaving, people are going, people are coming back. It's all over the place. Honestly, at this point, I don't know what they could do. I don't even know what to even say about all this, because it's just mind-blowing. Excuse me. I just don't know what to think anymore of DC Universe. I'm not gonna not go out of my way to support them. Yes, I may not have seen Justice League yet, but I've been very busy, and there are other films I'd rather see first. But I still have somewhat of a faith in what they're gonna do. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't even know at this point what they can do. It's really hard to decide. It's just so much drama that people are leaving and going. I don't even know what the hell is going on at this point. So that's what I have to say. I really don't know what to say, honestly.
Okay, so maybe Joel can help us out. Joel, you were the head of Warner Brothers. You're shaking this up. You're going to put it under one house. You have Aquaman in the can, and you want to do Wonder Woman 2 with Gal Gadot. What do? Do you reboot this thing, or do you continue moving forward?
I do Wonder Woman 2 and reboot entirely. Okay. I think that they need to end off the decade and then just enter the new decade with a new plan. Here's the thing: they're handling the Wizarding World pretty perfectly. They
are.
The marketing of those is top notch. They have not they never made a wrong step. It made a lot of money. Not as much as Harry Potter, but it was never going to, because it was a bit of an unknown variable, especially considering, in the face of the DCEU, but they've been completely screwing over the DCEU as they go, with the exception of Wonder Woman, but even then, that was kind of a little bit unforeseen in terms of the success based on the previous attempts at it, at success on their part. We didn't realize that Wonder Woman would be so popular to the degree that it was until it came out. But the story around Justice League was its reshoots, and they didn't push it back to give it another chance to work, and it came back and it bit them in the butt, and it just they need to refocus. They need to start over. They need to introduce, they need to do basically, and I hate to say this because I don't want them to just repeat what everybody else does, but they need to do what Marvel did. They need to introduce us to a character that maybe we don't really know much about, like Marvel did with Iron Man, and then kind of lure us into it and take their time. And then, because right now, we're looking at Justice League, and we're essentially, in terms of the DCEU, we saw Avengers Infinity War, of the series. Well, I guess sort of Avengers Infinity War, because there's going to be, potentially another Justice League movie with Darkseid. And so that would be essentially like the last Avengers movie, which is when they're going to face off against Thanos. So here, though, is sort of like the build-up to that. So it's the Avengers Infinity War of the series already, before even Avengers Infinity War comes out. So they rushed this too much, and it showed. And I think people saw that, and they responded accordingly. They largely didn't really care, and who can blame them? It's not a very good movie. Word of mouth travels, fast on repeat weeks, and as I think you'll see on the box office numbers, it's dwindling, and it's just not really translating. So what they need to do is they need to make Wonder Woman 2, but they need to fire Brett Ratner so that it happens, first of all, because that was the stipulation on Gal Gadot's part, that it would be she would only do it if Brett Ratner was fired. And then they need to do that, and then they need to finish off the decade and then start over completely. And maybe not start over completely in 2020, but start over completely when they've figured it out.
So what should they do with Aquaman then? Because it's already in the can. They can't just dump
no.
that movie.
I'm saying they should release that, and then they need to make. What I'm saying is they need to finish out the decade with their little plan. But they don't need to make a Cyborg movie. They don't need to make a Justice League with Darkseid, because I think that what they're going to realize very soon is that they'll have a hit on their hands with Wonder Woman 2. Probably, nobody's really going to care about Aquaman after Justice League because he didn't really have anything to do. And so it's not going to be like some huge runaway hit. It'll make money, but it won't be some huge runaway hit like they're hoping it would be. And then Wonder Woman 2 is going to be fairly popular. It's probably going to be about as popular as the first one, I would think. And then they need to stop. They need to kind of rethink things, shuffle people around if that's what's necessary. And obviously that's what they're doing. And come at it with a different attitude. Start fresh. Maybe like by 2025 or something. Again, start with a character that we don't really know. Start with Wonder Woman. Recast the role if that's necessary. Start with a female superhero so that you can get a leg up on that conversation with your big series. Because here, they started with the manliest man of the series, and then they immediately jumped into his conflict with the other manliest man of the series. So it's just get in on these conversations, make a go of it, but actually pay attention to what you're doing, and just start afresh. That's my.
Well, I think that actually makes a lot of sense, because I don't know the story of Aquaman, but I think it does take place before Justice League. Wonder Woman 2 is going to take place after the first one.
Before Justice League, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take place way before that. So technically, you could just erase everything and just start over after one. But I have no clue. But speaking of that, I know why they're doing this. Because Warner Brothers does this. They go, oh, they're like that fucking dog from Up, Doug, where they're just like, look at that squirrel. Let's do what that squirrel's doing. Squirrel? And so here's what's going to happen. They want to do Margot Robbie in 3 movies with Harley Quinn. Why are they doing this? I will tell you 100% why they want to do this and why they announced this. Because they need to slow their roll on announcing shit when they need to figure their shit out. The only reason they're doing this is because when the Oscars comes around, if Margot Robbie is nominated for I, Tonya, they are going to want to push that, and they're going to be like, oh, she's Oscar nominated now, we got to put her in movies, and they're reactionary. And it's pissing me off because they just look at something and they go, well, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to have like a set plan. We're just going to go with the flow. And if she is nominated, I'm telling you, they're going to push this through. The only reason they announced this is because of her Oscar potential.
Yeah. Think about the Tomb Raider trailer with Alicia Vikander, where it says Academy Award winner Alicia Vikander, as if that matters to a Tomb Raider movie. It sells itself.
Stupid.
It's a movie about a video game character. You don't need to announce that, but of course they latch onto that thing to give it a little more prestige, even though nobody will care. They won't care that an Oscar winner is in the role. They just care that somebody who fits the physical description or the physical kind of layout of the character from the video games is in the role, and Vikander kind of fits that, so that's what they're going to care about. They're not going to care about the fact that she's an Oscar winner, and people are probably not going to care about the fact that Margot Robbie is going to be an Oscar nominee. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. These are going to be separate from each other. They're not going to take place in the same universes. So she's going to be playing 3 different versions with slight alterations of this character in 3 different movies, and it's complete nonsense. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand, but I also don't understand what's going on here. It's completely it's baffling to me. So, it's going to be Gotham City Sirens, and I don't think the other 2 have titles, but the Gotham City Sirens one is, I think, tangentially connected to Suicide Squad, and then, and because that one's David Ayer, right? I think he's coming back for that. And then the other 2 are going to be separate ideas entirely. So it's just the weirdest thing. I don't know. It's bizarre. Bryan, are you as baffled as we are?
This is absolutely ludicrous. It's ridiculous at this point. Like I said just a few minutes ago with the whole, I don't even know what to think of DC and their lineup and their formula and everything. I don't understand how this would work. And I honestly agree with you guys totally. They probably did announce this news simply because of Margot Robbie's current award buzz performance in I, Tonya. And like you said, Joel, they won't simply care that she's an Oscar nominee. They don't care about that shit. Whenever you go see, like you said with the whole Tomb Raider thing, no one cares that Alicia Vikander's an Oscar nominee. People like us, we care. But the mainstream audience, they don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, case in point, Suicide Squad had an Oscar winner in Jared Leto, and no one gave a shit. No one's going to care about that.
Yeah, I mean, and Leto's performance had huge backlash, and he was an Oscar winner. He had just come off his win when he was announced for it.
Yeah. And
because he was announced in early 2014, I'm pretty sure, right after all of that happened. So, I mean, it's totally, totally bizarre.
Hey guys, I want to play a game with you. Which studio am I? All right. So we're gonna do a Cyborg movie. We're gonna do a Green Lantern movie. We're gonna do a Suicide Squad 2. We're gonna do a Wonder Woman 2. We're gonna do the Batman movie. We're gonna do a Justice League Part 2. We're gonna do a Cyborg and Aquaman have a gangbang. We're gonna do a Gotham City Sirens. We're gonna have a Harley Quinn movie. We're gonna have a Jared Leto and we're gonna have a Joker movie produced by Todd Phillips. We're gonna have another orgy movie. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's like. That's what they did for the past 2 months. Just announced shit.
They are basically, and this is getting into some personal territory on my part, but they're basically me when I was 9 and had just discovered Harry Potter and was like, I'm going to make this movie, and Shaquille O'Neal's going to be Hagrid, and Anthony Hopkins is going to be Dumbledore, and I don't know, I think it was like Tim Allen's going to be Malfoy. I don't remember. I think Tim Allen was involved somehow. And I don't know. I'm just throwing names out there. I literally, like, this is me when I was 10 after Phantom Menace came out. I wrote the first page of the screenplay for episode 2 because I was a dreamer, because I didn't know what I was talking about. And
so
suddenly
like
Warner Brothers is a 9-year-old boy.
It's ridiculous.
It's just the weirdest thing
in
the world.
It's whatever. They're in disarray and you get their shit figured out. But that's it for the movie news, guys. Obviously, I'm assuming by default the Star Trek news is our favorite. So, all right.
Totally the Disney buying Fox thing.
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself. All right, moving on. So the trailers have come out and we have a lot to talk about. So I will start off first. with the Alita Battle Angel trailer. Didn't actually think this was going to ever happen, considering the fact that James Cameron is making 20 Avatar films. I know he's a producer, but still he's involved. All right, so this one had come out. And it's produced by James Cameron and John Landau for some weird reason, and directed by Robert Rodriguez, who is most known for making a thumb as a villain in the Spy Kids movie. All right, so so this trailer came out, and I had never read the source material based on this. I knew this was coming. I believe Joel was on the show at the time where we talked about that news story where James Cameron wanted to produce a movie based on this source material and have Robert Rodriguez direct, and we're like, that's such a weird.
Last year, I think, right? I
think
I might have. It wasn't when I was co-host. I think I was a guest.
Yeah, it was. It was something to where like I remember specifically talking about that like a few months ago. So, but it was a year ago. But it seems a lot shorter. But so this trailer dropped. I kind of liked it. Believe it or not, it is kind of weird to see these two worlds combined. What I mean by that is that James Cameron is expensive CGI boner fest type of director. Robert Rodriguez makes movies for Snickers bars. So you're bringing these two directors together, and it's such a weird combination, but I think it works because Battle Angel still has kind of like that almost grindhousey Spy Kids look to it, but it works oddly enough for this very detailed CGI character known as Alita. And I don't know much about the source material, but I do love the CGI in this trailer. If the whole movie looks like this, we're in for a treat. This was a first trailer, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. Because if you look at Robert Rodriguez's Spy Kids films, he's not really like the best with CGI, so it is interesting to have James Cameron kind of oversee this stuff, but I've never been one of those guys that like wants to see him fail. I've always liked Robert Rodriguez's work. I'm actually one of the few people that like the Sin City sequel. I like.
I'm another of the few people.
Okay, so
I enjoyed it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand why people vehemently hate it. Whatever. But like, I like the first Sin City. I like Planet Terror, the Grindhouse movie. Like, it's a lot of fun. Like, he's a director that knows how to make just pure entertainment, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, do some of his earlier movies like the Spy Kids and the Shark Boy and Lava Girl shit get carried away? Yes, but with this one, it seems like he's really doing something different to kind of rebrand his name, and I am all for that because I think the CGI looks great. The kind of world building that they established in the trailer looks great. Christoph Waltz, I enjoy him and everything, so I don't care what he does. But yeah, I think it's a good enough trailer to sell me on the idea of seeing it. That's all I wanted to know was this trailer going to sell me on it? And of course, I forgot Ed Skrein was one of the weird looking robots running around, so that was kind of cool to see him. He's of course Ajax, the soap from Deadpool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm curious about it. So Bryan, we'll start off with you. What did you think of this trailer, and have you read the source material?
I have not read the source material prior to watching this trailer. I'm not really a big manga guy. I've never really been. That's not really my kind of thing. And I have to say, this trailer really shocked me. I actually really enjoyed this trailer a lot. And it's weird for me to see a movie, and I think it's weird for all of us to see James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez somewhat work together doing a movie. Like I never pictured that as a team. And this looks like a very – like I could see Robert Rodriguez's style thrown throughout, but at the same time, this doesn't feel like your typical Robert Rodriguez story. And I have to say it looks really impressive. Like the CGI looks amazing so far. I mean, obviously it's not done, but when the movie comes out – and the movies like this, like you said, Chase, we are in for quite a ride. And I'm really excited to see what they do. And with a cast like Christoph Waltz, Ed Skrein, Jennifer Connelly,
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, Ed Skrein as a good guy, very shocking, and coming off as Oscar win, Mahershala Ali, that's a really solid cast. So I'm really excited to see this. I'm definitely looking forward to it. It does look like it's going to be a film that probably bombs financially, but you know what? Hopefully it ends up being really, really solid. It's also a Fox film, so yeah.
Pretty much sums that up.
I'm really interested to see how this all comes out. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think it looks like a blast. I'm also a big fan of Rosa Salazar, who plays Alita. Speaking of which, we haven't talked about the eyes. After a couple of watches, they weren't as distracting as the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna. I mean, probably by the time we see it, we won't have seen the trailer for a while, so it'll be like bizarre for a few seconds. But really, they aren't all that distracting. It makes it look like an anime character. It isn't quite, too realistic in the uncanny valley territory. So I think it looks appealingly kind of cartoonish, but with that authentic kind of sheen to it, and I like that. But I'm a big fan of hers on the basis of her brief role in Parenthood, which is one of my favorite shows.
I love that show.
Yeah, and she was the I assume you probably know who she was in the show.
I don't remember, so you're gonna have to kind of like
okay.
describe
She was
her.
Pregnant.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was great in that role.
She was.
So now she's taken this on. It's her first kind of big movie role. She's been in stuff, but this is her like breakout. So I'm hoping that she gets some good solid work with this and beyond. Christoph Waltz is a good guy. Ed Skrein is a good guy. Interesting off the wall choices there. So I think it looks like a blast. It kind of looks nutty and involving and engaging and fun. It looks really fun. So I'm hoping it's a little better than Valerian, but it certainly seems to be in that territory. World building with a lot of CG that looks fantastic. So I'm a big fan of the trailer.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, just real quick, it's just one of those things to where at least the CGI is going to look good because it's from James Cameron's company, and that company is solely responsible for Avatar. And you can say whatever you want about those movies, but they are CGI like spectacular. Like they're absolutely just gorgeous eye candy. So at least it's going to look good, even if it doesn't really fit everywhere else. So that gives me hope that at least half the movie's good.
Basically, if the movie is bad, it'll be a great looking bad movie.
Exactly, like Valerian.
So, yeah, kind of. Yeah, but you know what I'm also looking forward to. So there's this little movie coming out next May. It comes 10 years after another little movie called Iron Man. It's called Avengers: Infinity War. It's a micro budget indie starring a lot of no-name stars like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt, Chris Pine. Actually, I don't know if Chris Pine was in there. Anyway, basically almost everybody in the Marvel Universe, with, I guess, the exception, it seems, of Samuel L. Jackson, although we hear him talk. I don't know if that means he's in a movie, but there's a few outliers that don't show up here. I know that that's been confirmed that there's a couple that aren't here, but basically everybody that's big and huge in this universe is in this thing. It looks like a big, a big epic adventure, fantasy adventure that brings them all together to fight Thanos. And this is kind of what it's been working at for 10 years. And I gotta say, I mean, I'm off and on with Marvel, but I'm super excited. This looks like it's going to be one of their better movies. It certainly looks like they're going to have a really good 2018 overall with this, Black Panther, and hoping for the best out of Ant-Man and the Wasp. So yeah, there's not much to talk about here, just because it shows us exactly what we expect with glimpses of all the heroes, and that stinger at the end with the Guardians of the Galaxy was nice. And yeah, by the way, they're in here too. So, I think it looks like a really solid action movie, and some pretty terrific visual effects work already, and it's not even finished yet. So, I'm excited to see where this all has ended up, and it's not technically the finale, but it's kind of the first step in that direction. So, I'm excited. Chase, are you? I'm assuming that you're dreading this with every bone in your body.
Okay, so it kind of just makes me angry that the modest little Star Wars fanboy over there isn't even like remotely getting excited. So I will get excited for you guys. This trailer is great. I absolutely loved it. I've seen it a million times. I picked up on little clues throughout. I love seeing like these little nuggets kind of spiced throughout the movie. Guys, when I was watching the movie, I told Joel, and you guys can make fun of me. That's fine. I cried. And it's only because, like, I've invested 10 years of my life into this goddamn franchise, and I'm excited to kind of see, like what Joel said, the final steps in this storyline to wrap up. Now I understand how people get emotional over Star Wars, because I get emotional over comic book movies, so I understand now. But as far as the trailer goes, I think it's a good teaser to set you up for this movie. I loved all the shots that they selected. It gets you hyped up, just seeing everyone in action. A couple of my favorite parts was, of course, that ending last shot. Beautiful, good stuff.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the trailer, actually, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again because it still chills me to my core, is hearing Alan Silvestri's score twisted with a knife. And it sounds horrific in the middle of the trailer, and it gave me goosebumps, because one of my favorite themes in comic book movies in the past 10 years is one of them is the main theme for the Avengers. And so that bringing Silvestri back to do the third one and taking his own theme and doing something haunting with it, that's what really struck me, because the music is going to guide this movie, and if what we heard is any indication of what's going to happen, shit's going to go down. And I can't wait for that. Like, just the sheer fact of seeing Thanos as big as he is and having those gems being the size of, like, chicken nuggets, it was, like, impressive to see the size difference. Because when all the characters are holding these orbs or these, little gems and whatnot, they look big. And the fact that Thanos, like, makes it look like a little peanut in his hand is just telling how big and threatening this guy is going to be.
You see him next to Vision here. Or cowering over Vision, I should say. And Vision's like what, 7 feet tall or something, and he towers over Vision, and it's. You're very right. I mean, it really illustrates his size, the sheer size of the guy.
Yeah, he punches Tony Stark in the face. He chokeslams a teenager, a spider teenager. He chokeslams him, and I'm like, holy shit, it's about to go down. I think one of the smartest marketing moves for this trailer, to be honest with you, is actually highlighting a lot of Black Panther, and we haven't even seen this guy yet in his own movie, and so it
shows confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a feeling Black Panther is going to be the better Marvel movie next year, but certainly they were very smart to highlight him, and I noticed it exactly as you did, because he's in this a lot. He has some of the most dialogue spoken on screen, rather than as opposed to narrated here, and it's really highlighting his importance in these last steps. And I can't wait. It gets you excited for Black Panther again. So
exactly. Yeah, now I do have one nitpick of the trailer, and I don't know.
You have a nitpick?
I do, and like I don't know if she's getting tired of being in these movies. But the line read from ScarJo, little dull, not going to lie. So her voiceover was a little dull to me, and I don't know if it's just because she's tired of doing these things. Like, she just seems like she's just not interested anymore, but whatever, that's a little nitpick. Bryan, we haven't really discussed this in person yet, so what did you think of the Infinity War trailer, and how does it feel investing 10 years of your life into this storyline?
Okay, one, I'm very excited for the movie. 2, when I first saw this trailer, I thought Thanos looked like a thumb. 3, I agree with you on ScarJo's delivery. It's very like flat and whatever. 4, Cap has a beautiful beard. 5, the score, like you said, the twist in the score is really haunting. And 6, devoting 10 years, like I was a little kid when Iron Man came out, and now I'm a college student, so it just feels weird for me. I mean, Chase, I remember I'm gonna describe this. Bryan, I was in fucking high school when the movie came out. Now I'm close to adulthood, Bryan.
Because I was a senior in high school when Iron Man came out, and you're like, I was a little kid sucking on a juice box in the playground. It's like, what the fuck?
It was like 4 weeks away from graduation.
It was like
about,
super close to like us getting rid of high school. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. So Bryan, you can just be quiet about your age. Just kidding.
Shut up, Joel. No, in all seriousness, I'm very excited to see this movie. Like, yeah, it's close to to the finale. I'm very curious to know how everything's going to go down in here. I agree with you. Black Panther is probably going to be the best MCU movie we have next year. I think it will be. It's the one I'm most excited for because I adore Ryan Coogler so much. And yeah, the way they're going to do this, I'm still curious to know how they're going to handle having 30 plus characters on screen. Hopefully all of them get a good amount of screen time. I'm still shocked that Josh Brolin's playing both Thanos and Cable. I don't know how the fuck he's doing it, but he's doing it. And
within a month of each other.
Yeah, they'll both still be in theaters when they both come out. Like,
Yep.
It's going to be impressive.
He will be the villain of two comic book movies.
It's amazing.
It's playing probably still in the top 5. Like when Deadpool 2 probably is number 1 that weekend, Avengers will likely still be in the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
It will be. It will be.
Yeah.
The Olympic coming out in May, and then the end of May is Han Solo, and then the week after is Deadpool 2. So it's going to be quite big. And but yeah, Infinity War, I was very satisfied with this teaser. It gave enough to show just for a teaser. Like, it didn't give anything away. We don't really know what the movie's about, which is awesome. So for people who whine that there's not enough in the trailer, it's a fucking teaser. So calm your nipples, okay?
just calm your nips. Now, speaking of nips, there was another finale trailer that came out, Bryan, that Joel said that his nips were pointy as shit, and he said that he could cut a goddamn fruit with it, like any type of fruit. He could cut a pineapple with it. So, Bryan, can you explain to me which trailer I'm talking about in terms of the other finale trailer?
Yeah, the other finale trailer you're talking about is for Maze Runner: The Death Cure. Now, the Maze Runner series, here's the thing with this series. Now, after Harry Potter wrapped up, it was desperate for a young adult series to be on the levels of awesomeness as that. And for me personally, we had Hunger Games, Divergent, and this. Now, the Hunger Games, I like it, don't love it. I love the second one, but that's a different story. I hate Divergent. I'm glad that's done. Well, in the theatrical run, it's done. And the Maze Runner films, I enjoyed the first. I thought it was a huge surprise. I was a fan of Dylan O'Brien at the time because I'm not going to hide this from anyone. When Teen Wolf was on TV, I watched it. I didn't watch the last season of it because it just got too convoluted, too messed up. It turned into like a really bad version of Lost. And I know that doesn't really say much. Now we're going to mock
you relentlessly, Bryan.
I know that doesn't say much because everyone's very divisive on Lost, but Lost is to me one of the best shows ever.
I love Lost. I won't. Yeah.
Thank you, Joel. Now, the second Maze Runner film, The Scorched Trials, or The Scorched Boredom, I thought it was such a disappointment. And the way it wrapped up, I mean, it got me interested to see where it was going to go with this last one. I'm glad this is in 2 parts, which is a great thing automatically. But this film did suffer from a lot of stuff. Dylan O'Brien got injured on the set of the film, right when they started filming, and they had to push it back until he recovered. And then once he recovered, he made the poor man's Jason Bourne with American Assassin. And then he went back to this, and this film was supposed to come out earlier this year, but then it got pushed back to January of next year. So this film is literally coming out in a month. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm definitely interested to see where this movie goes, but it's unfortunate that the movie's come out almost 3 years after the last one. A lot of people are going to forget how the last one wrapped up. I don't even remember how the last one ended, in all honesty. I don't think the movie looks terrible by any means. I think it looks interesting, but I'm not really that excited to watch it. Now, that's not to say there are things about it that I don't like. I love Dylan O'Brien as this character. He's great as Thomas, and the whole cast is outstanding. And I've always appreciated dystopian storylines, but I don't know. I'm just not really that excited for this. I'm not dreading it, but I'm not hyped out of my mind for it. I'm definitely more interested in it than I was a few months ago. But yeah, I just don't know how well this movie's going to do because the last one came out in 2015. So are a lot of people going to sit their butts in to see this movie? I mean, it's probably the only serviceable thing coming out in January next year, so who knows. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Death Cure final trailer. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to keep this to 30 seconds. Never saw the other 2, so I have no idea what's going on. This one looks fine. But what I did appreciate was seeing American Assassin. Not because I don't think it's a good movie, because it's a whatever movie, but it gave me hope about Dylan O'Brien because I had never seen him before. I had never seen him act. And so the fact that he carried a movie, and he did pretty well in the action scenes, and he was convincing in that role, it gave me hope to see anything he was ever in the future.
He was in consideration to play our Spider-Man and Han Solo. At one point.
So I mean, like he's in talks for like these big roles. So I don't doubt that he has talent, but I just had never seen him because I never saw the Maze Runner movies. But you know what? He was good in the trailer. But the problem is, I'm tired of these dystopian young adult pieces of bullshit. The Hunger Games was the last one I ever wanted to even finish, just because I actually like, the second and the third one. And so I was like, well, I like most of that series, so I'll finish it. Divergent, no thank you. Never saw the Maze Runner because I was never interested. So I have no thoughts on this trailer. It looks cool, and Dylan O'Brien, I like him now. So I guess that was the positive out of it. So Joel, did you even see the Maze Runner movies, and what did you think of this?
I saw the first one. It's actually pretty good. There's a solid sense of mystery to it that you basically like, what's that, like at every corner basically, because it doesn't reveal very much of, what it's up to. Unfortunately, the second movie is not very good, and it's because it answers a lot, or not all of the questions, obviously, because there's one more movie, but it answers some of the questions set up by the first one. And, I mean, it's, it just kind of breaks some promises, and it doesn't really do anything very interestingly. Dylan O'Brien is solid in them. Certainly in the first one, I thought he was good. This one looks fine, looks whatever. I'm vaguely interested to see how it all ends. I would suggest, Chase, that you see the first two, because that's kind of the big movie that weekend. It's the only real wide release coming out, so we'll likely be talking about it. So I would see the first two, if only because of that, but really I'd only recommend the first one.
Well, that's interesting. The next trailer we're going to talk... No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I will see the first two at some point, but I will dread it, and Joel's going to make me, because he's a dick, and he likes doing this to me. He likes putting me through torture, so congratulations, I'm going to finally see the franchise. All right, so speaking of franchises, because, the trailers just never stop this week. I don't know how to break this to Universal, but I think I have to sit them down like my child. We need to talk. So this next trailer is a sequel to a entertaining movie that broke all kinds of records. I can't believe it made this much money, but Jurassic World was a huge success when it came out in 2015, and now we have a sequel, Fallen Kingdom. The first trailer was released. Is everyone excited? Everyone was pumped. They were waiting for it. It came out a week after the Avengers trailer. People were pumped to see what the fuck was going to happen. And I am here to report to you, this trailer was boring. It looked just one note, and I cannot believe if they are playing it out this way. Because when the trailer started, I was like, okay, I guess I'm interested to see where they're going to take this. Okay, 2 minutes has gone by, 2.5 minutes has gone by, the trailer's done with. You're telling me that the whole entire movie is just them escaping a exploding island. Wow, that's really fucking intriguing. I will say that some of the positives of the trailer, some of the cinematography is gorgeous, and it has better cinematography than the first one. Other than that, I didn't give two flying shits about the trailer. I thought just even the action looked boring. The characters looked boring. They looked like they were bored being there. It doesn't look like it's going to advance any type of story or mythology. It just looks like it's the same shit, just rehashed into escaping off the island. And it's like, you're making a whole big budgeted blockbuster out of this little thin plot. I just, whatever. Like I said, some of the cinematography, beautiful, and well composed. But other than that, I just could give two flying fucks about this. So I'll throw it over to Bryan first, because he looks like he's ready to talk about it. Bryan, Jurassic World: The Fallen Kingdom trailer. Why is it your favorite trailer of the week?
Okay. So I love the Jurassic Park franchise a lot. The first one's great. I think the second one's very underrated and underappreciated. The third one, whatever. I didn't mind Jurassic World. I had fun watching it. It was entertaining for what it was. It wasn't as great as I was hoping it would be, but it was still very enjoyable. I was really excited to watch this trailer because I think the director change is vastly superior. I love J.A. Bayona a lot. I love his work. The Orphanage, The Impossible, and The Monster Calls, all three of them are great films in every step of the way. And when they announced he was directing Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, whatever you want to call it, film, I was really excited to see him tackle a really high-budgeted film. And I gotta be honest, I agree. This trailer was really boring. Honestly, what pissed me off, like I didn't mind the way it began. What pissed me off the most, and I don't know why a lot of people haven't really been talking about this. The second half of the trailer shows a bunch of stuff that I would not have wanted to see in the trailer. I would have wanted to see in the movie. I don't know why they were doing this because Universal is usually I thought about this a lot. Universal is generally very smart with their marketing. I watched a bunch of their trailers, and they're usually very smart with their marketing. They don't spoil a lot of things. Sure, they've spoiled things from time to time, but what they did in the second half of this trailer, it pissed me off so much, and now I'm not going to be excited when I see these set scenes in the movie because watching these scenes I would be like, oh my god, that's amazing. But now that I saw him in the trailer, it just ruins the excitement for me. And like, I love Chris Pratt, I love Bryce Dallas Howard. Like I said, I love J.A. Bayona's work. I will say the cinematography, like you said, Chase, looks vastly better. I think they're using more animatronics in this movie than CGI, which is obviously a plus. But I was really disappointed with this trailer. It's one of the most disappointing trailers I've seen in quite some time, and hopefully the movie ends up being good. Like I said, I love J.A. Bayona's work. I think he's a far better director than Colin Trevorrow. Like, Colin Trevorrow's only made one good thing. Like, not that I hated the first Jurassic World. Safety Not Guaranteed was so solid. Jurassic World was okay. The Book of Henry was...
The Book of Henry. The Book of Henry was the Book of Henry.
Exactly. It was the Book of Henry. So, but yeah, this trailer, it let me down tremendously. I was very sad watching this trailer. I was excited at first, and then I was just like, oh, okay, thanks. So, yeah, that's it.
Well, I'm going to let Bryan cry his eyes out. I'm just going to say, so I love Jurassic Park. It's one of my favorite movies. I think Lost World is incredibly underrated. I like Jurassic Park 3. I know a lot of people don't, but I think it's maybe missing an ending, but it's a solid movie. Solid little actioner. It's very compact, and it utilizes its short length to do as much as it can. Basically, it's a chase movie, and that's fine. And I like Jurassic World. I thought that it was a lot of fun. It certainly wasn't the most polished looking movie, but it was just a lot of fun. It was silly and the performances were solid as they were. It's weirdly enough, it's one that I gave 4 stars when it came out, but I don't consider it that highly anymore. It's fun. Never would I have thought that a Jurassic Park trailer is my least favorite trailer of the week. And that's certainly the case here because the Death Cure had a trailer that didn't seem to give away everything. And you're absolutely right, Bryan. It's baffling what they show. Like, I was a friend of mine messaged me, did the Fallen Kingdom trailer just basically give away the climax? And he was right. It's like, why would you reveal all of this? It's like they put it through like some artificially intelligent trailer, like machine that just pumps one out or something. Like they put the whole movie in there and they're like, okay, well, this would work, but it doesn't work. I mean, it's just random scenes, and then it gives away too much, and it seems like Chris Pratt's like high energy charisma seems to be lost here. He doesn't seem to be really know what he's doing in this movie. And like Chase said, the premise, I mean, as compact and to the point as Jurassic Park 3 was, this looks like it's part of that movie. Like in terms of the fact that it's part of a premise. It's not the entire thing.
So there's your ending.
Right.
Fallen Kingdom is your ending.
There we go. Maybe, if we think about it that way, maybe it'll work. We probably shouldn't, though. But yeah, it looks bad. And the visual effects, it looks very CGI heavy in a way that doesn't really. I mean, the cinematography looks great, but the like mix of digital effects with live action does not. It looks very cheap to me, even though it's likely not cheap at all. Of course, that's the way of the world right now, it seems, with every other movie. It's like, also, I want to call into question something about the premise. Now, I understand Jurassic Park, it's silly. You can't really, like, expect realism from this stuff, but okay, why are they going to these people to rescue that dinosaur? I get that he's like this dinosaur expert, but he's not someone I assume that's done any rescue missions before. She's a businesswoman. So why are they going to these people to rescue this dinosaur? I don't know. Anyway, that's going to be, I guess, an answer or a question answered by the movie. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just like this given fact that these are the people they would ask, even though it makes no sense to ask them to do this. And maybe something else happens that they're the only ones who can. I don't know. We also forgot to mention that this brings back Jeff Goldblum, which, I really hope he comports himself with more dignity than he did in Independence Day Resurgence.
But
I assume that's not hard to
that's
do.
The thing. Apparently, it's a cameo and it's not a big role. That's what he said. J.A. Bayona said that makes me depressed heavily.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it makes sense though. Why is this sort of confined rescue situation going to be interrupted by Malcolm Turner, or whatever his name was?
Ian Malcolm.
Ian Malcolm. I don't know why I thought it was Malcolm Turner. Anyway,
you call yourself a Jurassic Park fan, Joel.
There's somebody named Malcolm Turner. I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, I guess it wouldn't make sense to have Ian in there. So I guess a cameo would make sense, but then why bring him back?
I'm gonna bet you money on it. The scene that he's gonna have, they're gonna make a Skype call to him on land somewhere else, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, I can't help," and then he's gonna close it. If that's what that scene is, congratulations! It is the most wasted cameo in the history of cameos.
Yeah, pretty much that, and apparently the courtroom thing. We see that, but yeah, I mean it's just a bad trailer. It's just poorly put together, and the movie doesn't look promising. And so yeah, I mean for sure, something like The Death Cure is modest. It's not like something to get super duper excited about, but it had a better put together trailer, and it looks a little more intriguing. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm looking forward to the January threequel more than the Jurassic Park sequel. It's just, I don't know, man. New World. 2017 is completely eventless. There's nothing weird that's happened this year. All right. So, to take a break from the big trailers this week, we're going to talk about a small one. This is a new drama from A24. It's called Lean on Pete. And it comes from director Andrew Haigh, who directed 45 Years a couple years ago, one of the best films of that year. I think it was my number 2, about an elderly married couple who has a secret that kind of comes out from one of them, and it turns the relationship on its ear. He also directed Weekend from a couple years before that, which was a gay romance. I never saw that. It's on Netflix, so I gotta catch up with that. But now this is his new one. It's getting raves like from all sorts of places that I've heard about, and basically the gist is that this teenager played by Charlie Plummer gets a summer job, and he's going to be working as a horse trainer, and he befriends the horse named Lean on Pete, and sort of just goes on an adventure with him eventually. And I'm telling you what, this trailer is powerful stuff. This is one of those movies where I can foresee myself crying my eyes out in this movie. I got misty in 45 years, so if that's any indication of how Haig handles this kind of high drama, then we're in for something really special. It comes out in March. Likely is going to be it's March 30th. It's likely a limited release, so probably April when we see it. And I can't wait. I mean, I've now got one of my more anticipated movies of next spring. And Chase, I can see him is nodding, and I assume he agrees here. It's really good, and also neat to see Charlie Plummer here. He's really kind of taking off because he's the Getty kid in all the money in the world next week. So that's neat. He's got kind of 2 back-to-back movies to get him into the spotlight. He hasn't been in much before this, so it's also got an interesting kind of small cast. Travis Fimmel, Amy Siemetz, Chloe Sevigny. We see Steve Zahn, Steve Buscemi. Awesome little dramatic role for him, like kind of out of character a bit. He usually plays, even if the character is nuanced, he kind of plays them loud. So this is going to be interesting to see him take on a different role. And also Thomas Mann. So anyway, great little trailer. It's probably going to be a small gem in early next year, and I can't wait. So, Chase, I'm going to hand it over to you. You are nodding. I assume you agree with this.
Absolutely. The more I think about 45 years, the more it haunts me, because that has one of the most... Oh, man, that had one of those endings where it just permeates your soul and sticks with you, and it's haunting.
I sat in the theater for like 5 minutes after that movie, just staring at the screen. I mean, it's
amazing.
Totally,
and so I when you like a movie like that and it transfers over with the same director of Lean on Pete, I'm all for it. And that trailer was great. It just looks like just a wholesome movie about a boy and his horse, a boy and his family, a boy just having a relationship with a bunch of different people. I gotta tell you, man, I was super surprised to not want to see Steve Buscemi, but to see him actually like convince me that he was like a father type. Because you're right, he does like all these loud comedy roles, and he's been in
It's because drama. It's because, and I love Steve Buscemi, but I'm gonna speak some truth right now. He has the face of a comic character. He does. He doesn't have the face that you usually connect to some low key dramatic role. And so it was completely stunning to see. We see a breakfast or dinner or whatever eating scene between him and the son, and he's nuanced and very quiet, reserved, and you believe it exactly. Yeah. So this could be one of those things where we see an early year A24 drama get some recognition late in the year, whether it's at the Oscars or just in critic groups for this performance. I'm gonna call it now. I think that Buscemi's gonna get some recognition for this from somebody.
Which is great, because not like on top of that, like you said, Charlie Plummer, and of course Steve Zahn. My boy Steve Zahn, he can do no wrong. Like, I love it when he pops up in anything, especially with War of the Planet of the Apes. Ape, like this fucking guy. It just I love everything
Steve
he
Zahn.
does.
He's a great actor.
He's so good. But
he's
I honestly have nothing more to say about this trailer. It just looks like a really powerful drama about family and about a boy who looks like he doesn't have a place in the world, and it looks like this horse is going to give him that avenue for it. And when the horse, is going to be away, of course it's going to be heartbreaking. And anything to do with like children and animals having a relationship, it's going to be heartbreaking as fuck. So Lean on Pete, definitely looking forward to it. And come on, it's A24. I've liked 95% of their movies, so I don't even need to talk about them.
Bryan, did this tickle your fancy?
Yes, it did. It looks fantastic, and the trailer was very inspirational and powerful to watch. I agree. Like, Charlie Plummer looks like he could be one of those rising stars. Obviously with all the money in the world, and then this.
Back to back specifically.
Back to back, and it does look like a film that could potentially be like an early Oscar contender. It could be, and I agree with you on Steve Buscemi. He has that face to him. ever since I was a little kid, the first thing that I ever saw with Steve Buscemi was Monster House, and him playing Old Man Nevercracker. It's a criminally underrated performance. It is one of the best performances he's given in his career. People are like, "Oh, Boardwalk Empire, move the fuck over. It's Monster House all the way, motherfuckers." But no, I agree. It looks like an amazing film, and I'm really excited. And obviously, A24, like, yes, they tickle my fancy, and I agree with Chase. I mean, I've liked a lot of their stuff. Most of their stuff, there are a few things from them I haven't liked. But for the most part, they put out great shit, and I'm so excited for this movie. I don't know why. When I was about to watch this trailer, I was like, I don't know if this trailer is going to win me over, because I really wasn't a fan, and this is just my personal opinion. I wasn't really a fan of the Before Dawn trailer. I didn't really find that trailer that compelling, in my opinion, at least. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but this one looks just breathtaking, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait for Lean on Pete. But then, it'll take 2 months for it to come to New Jersey, like for every other A24 movie. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Buscemi gets some recognition for this, it'll be great, like, repayment for the Oscar nomination he did not receive and should have received for Fargo. Because he should have gotten some love for that. I love him in that movie. All right, so Bryan, introduce our last and I think best trailer.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right now this is the best trailer of the week. This is also the most surprising trailer of the whole week. So, I completely forgot that Sony Pictures Animation was even doing a film with this character. So they're doing the Spider-Man animated film. Now, I forgot about this. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are behind it. They're not directing it. They're producing it. I think they're writing it, whatever. I'm not entirely sure about all the details. But this film is called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And what's very interesting about this movie – well, I got a text about this trailer yesterday during my job interview. So I was like, the Spider-Man movie, I thought they were only doing Spider-Man Homecoming 2. So I clicked on this trailer, and just the imagery alone and the music choice they have, it took my breath away. And when it said it's coming out next Christmas, I'm like, I don't want to wait a fucking year for this. I want this movie now. I want this movie more than, like, Infinity War, I'm just saying. Like, this movie, the trailer was amazing. It's just a teaser. It's, like, only a minute, and it's, like, 70 seconds long, so it's not really that long of a trailer. It's just, like, an announcement saying, oh, we have an animated Spider-Man movie coming out, blah, blah, blah. The animation, I want to talk about that first, because the animation looks fucking spectacular. It looks breathtaking. It looks like a mix of, like, anime and just, like, typical, like, CGI animation, but oh my god, there's so many perfect shots. Like, if any of you guys followed the One Perfect Shot page on Twitter, the shot of him upside down as he's the city's upside down or whatever, I don't really remember because the trailer just blew my mind. That shot was so perfect. I was like, this is an animated movie. This is not a Pixar movie. This is not a DreamWorks movie. This isn't a Leica movie. This is just a Sony Pictures Animation film. Like, how the fuck is that possible? And it just, oh my god, it's insane. And then, the main character of it is actually not Peter Parker. It's Miles Morales, and who's being voiced by Shameik Moore, excuse me. He's the guy that played the main character in Dope, which was one of 2015's finest pieces of film. And yeah, I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait. I've always loved the character of Spider-Man, but it's nice to see that they're finally doing something with Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker. Nothing against Peter Parker, but we've seen him now depicted 3 times in film. So it's nice to know that they're going to focus on him. And next year's going to be a huge year with Spider-Man because that incredible-looking Spider-Man game from Insomniac Games comes out. And I'm not much of a gamer, but that game looks so incredible. Open world at its finest. But yeah, this trailer really blew my socks off. The music choice especially, like that. Oh, I love the song choice. Not a fan of the artist, but the song was perfect for the trailer. So yeah, I'm really stoked for this new Spider-Man movie.
So let me just say this. Sony Pictures Animation, goddamn you. In 1 minute and 30 seconds, you just claimed this was going to be the best thing you pumped out. From the same studio, let me read the list. Surfing Penguins, The Smurfs, Hotel Transylvania, and the Emoji fucking Movie. This is the same studio. Holy shit. And I thought Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was going to be their only good one. Now we have a contender as probably going to be their good one. So, listen, excluding the title, which I'm not a big fan of, Into the Spider-Verse, whatever, talking about the trailer itself, I love that art animation. I love that style. It's like neo-noir mixed in with comic book, mixed in with hand-drawn. It's such a great style, and I'm so glad Sony's taking a risk on that style, because they could have easily gone with that horrendous-looking 3D animation that's so stale like it was in the Emoji Movie, but they're taking a risk on it. They're taking a chance. The only question I have, I love the artistic direction they're going with it. I love the voice acting from what we heard on that one line. The cinematography, like you said, it's straight up ripped out of a comic book. The only question I have, because they allude to that Miles Morales is not the only one in the universe, so they're alluding to Peter Parker as well. So my question is, since this one's animated and Homecoming is live action, are these two in the same universe? And if that is the case, how are they going to make these two blend? And is that going to look weird since one is animated and one is not? I don't know, but that's my only kind of concern I have with this type of movie, since it is supposedly connected. But other than that, I absolutely love it. The tone is right. They're going risky with the animation. I'm glad they're risking that, and I hope in one fell swoop they can obliterate Smurfs, Surf's Up, Open Season, Hotel Transylvania, and the Emoji Movie off in one fell swoop, and I hope this is the standard for them now. So, absolutely love it, and that was just a teaser. So, Joel, being a person that just claimed on this podcast that Spider-Man Homecoming is your favorite MCU movie, now Sony could have a potential another winner in that universe with you. Is this correct?
I mean, they could really release 3 movies that I'd give a perfect A in the Spider-Man universe. With, I'll say it again, Spider-Man 3. Okay. Spider-Man Homecoming and this, because, this looks like an A movie to me. They've got, it's interesting that Sony has Peter Rabbit, I think Hotel Transylvania 3, and then this. It's like each season. So they'll be able to give us trash and then scoop it all away with this one movie that looks amazing. Honestly, I cannot wait. This is, I can't immediately remember what else comes out next December.
Aquaman,
but this might
Star Wars.
No, I think isn't Aquaman October? I think Aquaman's October.
They moved it to December.
Oh yeah, I can't keep up at this point. Okay, so well, I'm more excited for this than for Aquaman, to be completely honest. So this might be my most anticipated, just because it looks like such a vision. Like the animation that y'all are talking about, there's this fascinating low frame rate quality to it. That it's playful, but it's also striking. Like the drawings are just striking. It's this is like Chase said, it's this kind of combination of clearly hand drawn, with the 3D mapping of the 3D layout and mapping and all that. And it looks like a fascinating story, because it's clear that Miles Morales is I don't know his arc, but it's clear that his arc is different from Peter Parker's, and also we can't look over how valuable it is to have a young black hero right now in this in the world we have right now. It's very valuable, and especially at the head of a superhero movie like this, it's going to book in nicely with Black Panther in that way, and also I'm going to say what probably everybody is thinking, but too scared to ask. Is this going to challenge Incredibles 2 next year as the best animated superhero movie? Because I think it very well could.
Could.
I honestly think it could, unless it's not very good, which obviously we got to leave ourselves open to that possibility for anything. But it could be that it's not very good, in which case it wouldn't, because I feel like Incredibles 2 is destined to be good. But, I mean, it very well could. It very well could give that a run for its money. And I can't wait to see that kind of battle commence. But whatever the case, on its own merits, it looks amazing. It's my favorite trailer of the year. I felt pumped up after watching this, and it takes a lot to do that. I mean, it's interesting that we talked about two superhero movies, and the one that I'm more excited for, based on the trailer, is not the Avengers.
No, Joel, can you rephrase that? Your favorite trailer of the week is from the same company that pumped out its anus, which is the Emoji Movie.
Yes.
Say it like that.
I'm telling you, this is it's shocking. There was a friend who on Facebook who put it this way: it is downright bizarre to see something with Sony Pictures Animation in front of it and then be excited to see it after it's over, because you're either like struck with complete boredom and like, why does this existness of like Hotel Transylvania 3, which just looks so whatever. Also, hey, is Smallfoot theirs? Because I can't remember. I think that's Blue Sky. That's Blue Sky. Okay, well, in any case, I almost put Smallfoot in this lineup, but I wanted to take it out because I wanted to talk about this more, and that would take away from the time. And I mean, this looks like it's going to eat that for breakfast, let's just say. In any case, I mean, you have like I was saying, you have this, what's the use of this reaction to something like Hotel Transylvania 3? And then you have wanting to die from being in a burning building while being tortured, while being shot, of Peter Rabbit. And to give you the light and funny version of the description. And then you have this. I mean, it blows you away. It looks like a genuine vision from directors who care. Speaking of which, yes. So this is being. Let's see. I got it open here. Yeah, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller co-wrote the screenplay with Rodney Rothman. And then the directors are Bob Persichetti. This is his first directorial effort. He's worked with DreamWorks a lot on stuff like Shrek 2, Shark Tale, and Puss in Boots. And then Peter Ramsey is the other director, and he made Rise of the Guardians. He directed that one, and that was a really solid one, I thought. So I'm glad that they kind of came over. And by the way, I wasn't a huge fan of Dope, but I loved Shameik Moore in it, and I'm glad to see that he's getting something like this that puts him on the map. And also, speaking of Mahershala Ali in Alita, he's in this. He's going to be Aaron Davis, and I'm assuming that means something to people. I don't know, but yeah, that's pretty neat news. And Liev Schreiber's in it, so. I don't know. It's going to be pretty terrific, or I hope it is. And yeah, so
yeah.
I'm excited.
If you ask any hardcore Spider-Man fan, their second favorite character in the universe that dons the suit is Miles Morales. So the fact that he's finally getting his movie, that says a lot. And like you said,
people are going to be happy about that.
Oh yeah. So I'm glad that we ended with that trailer, because that's our favorite trailer of the week. And so with that all out of the way, this is it, folks. We finally get to talk about the most anticipated movie of 2003. We're going to be reviewing The Room. Just kidding, we're going to be reviewing the movie based on that movie. So, yes, the main review of this week is The Disaster Artist. And before we give our opening thoughts and dive into this movie, Joel, what is this movie about? And I hope you word it exactly like this. It is a movie based on a book, based on a movie, based on a guy who has no origin of human history.
Yes, it's about this alien who comes out of nowhere. No, so I'm going to word it even better. So, The Disaster Artist is the new film from James Franco, who directs the movie and stars in it as Tommy Wiseau, who directed and starred in his own movie and wrote it, The Room, from 2003. This movie is based on the book of a similar name by Greg Sestero and Tom Bissell. Sestero was the film's co-star and line producer, and was Tommy Wiseau's quote-unquote best friend. We don't know really to what degree that's true, but we'll see. And is also, which is about the making of The Room, which was the heinously awful romantic melodrama from 2003. And I say romantic drama, a melodrama. I know that it was marketed as a quirky black comedy because of, kind of this weird bureaucratic decisions, but it's definitely a romantic melodrama, firmly. And to kind of give, because we have to go into this before we go into what the movie's about, we got to give like a plot summary of The Room. So The Room was about a guy named Johnny, who is kind of deeply in love with his fiancée, Lisa, and Lisa is cheating on Johnny with Johnny's best friend, Mark. And so Johnny kind of finds this out and goes insane, essentially. There's a lot of weird little side plots that go nowhere, including how Lisa's mother has breast cancer. Okay, I'm not going to reveal that. So, yeah. And then also there's this weird subplot with a drug dealer and this kid named Denny that doesn't really go anywhere. But ultimately, to kind of give it away, because I don't know who would care. It's kind of known right now, I guess, isn't it? How The Room ends. Would you say it's kind of known? And people who haven't seen it probably don't care, so I can give this away. It ends in a suicide. Let's just say that. So the movie is about the conception of the idea by Tommy Wiseau, played by James Franco, I should say, and how he ropes in through his interesting kind of sense of charm, if you want to call it that, Greg Sestero, played by Dave Franco, and the movie's just about how Wiseau has this like mysterious like place of funding that he's able to pay for the entire movie, $6 million allegedly, and how he's just kind of this tyrannical like overlord of a director. He ends up casting himself in the role of Johnny. He lords over everybody else. He doesn't, at one point allow them to fix a problem of like AC in the building. It's just like the guy's an insane, like if you thought James Cameron stories were bad, get a load of this. And really, I mean, it becomes this kind of study of bravado, of like vision, even though it isn't really funneled into anything that anybody's able to control in Wiseau, and thus the movie is terrible, but not for lack of trying. There is very much a fullness of trying here in The Room, and it's just not very apparent by the final product, but it is apparent by the stories that we hear about the making of, and that's what this movie's about. So Chase, I will give it over to you for your initial thoughts.
Well, first, before we begin, gentlemen, no one will have any idea what we're talking about if they've never seen The Room, but we're going to go around the horn, and you can only pick one saying from The Room. What is your favorite one? Just one saying, one iconic saying from The Room. What is it? What's your favorite one, Bryan?
Oh, God damn it.
Just one.
Shit.
That's not in the movie.
I know it's not. Fuck off. Oh, God damn it. That line that Denise says on the roof when they confront him about the drugs. I forgot the exact line. I just watched the movie last week, too. Oh, fuck. Chase, help me.
He says a lot of things on the movie.
He says a lot of things. Well, I mean, because you're talking about the scene where the drug dealer's like, "Where's the fucking money, Denny? Where's the fucking money?"
Yes.
Okay, well, that scene. So, all right, so Joel, what about you? What line is your absolute favorite from The Room?
I got the results back. I definitely have breast cancer.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's almost like they never bring it up again. My favorite one.
And by the way, we can't reveal the like big thing that comes out of that line, but it's one of the funniest things in this movie.
For sure.
It's amazing. Anyway, go ahead.
That line is hilarious. My favorite one. I've seen the movie a million times, and I could easily go with "You're tearing me apart" or any other heinous line that Tommy says, but I have to go with the one he says at the very end when Greg pushes him Don't touch me, motherfucker. Like, it's the best use of motherfucker ever in film history. I love it. All right, so people have no idea what we're talking about. All right, so starting out with the overall thoughts. I love this movie. I'm going to just say it straight up. It's in my top 10. It's very high up. I absolutely love it. I don't think there's any glaring negatives. I have a couple of, like, not really issues, but more of just like, they could have gone a different route with it, but it doesn't bother me in my score. It's not really an A+ movie, because that's, like, when you see an A+ movie, you know, but it's definitely very high up there, and it's definitely one of my favorites of the year. Bryan, what are your overall impressions of this?
Yeah, this movie is one of the best of the year. It's absolutely incredible. Like you said, I don't think it's an A+ movie either, but I certainly think that it was so solid from start to finish, thoroughly entertaining, really heartfelt, sometimes heartbreaking. The movie was all around phenomenal, and it's one of the year's best. And honestly, the best thing about this is that everybody I know that have seen this movie so far does not dislike it. Everybody I know at least likes this movie, so that's honestly a great thing for everybody. Even people who hadn't seen The Room still like this movie, so that's an awesome thing to hear.
Well, I'm glad I brought you on, because I'm going to have some backup. Now, Joel and I saw this movie together, and of course I turned to him and I always give him my initial thoughts. And I told him I love this. It's in my top 3. But Joel had a different reaction. He isn't like as hyped, but he still had this answer. Joel, what'd you think about it?
Well, okay. I thought you
that was my transitional cue to you, sir.
Sorry. So when you said like this answer, I thought it was like one of those like colon.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, no. I mean, I'm certainly very high on this. I don't know where it is in my list. I don't think it's in my top 10, but it's certainly somewhere right outside, like in that next top 10 or whatever. It's going to be a high grade for me. I very much enjoyed this movie. I do have a few problems. One's more than a nitpick, a couple things are nitpicks. But certainly it's incredibly entertaining. It's got we'll get into that, but it's got a great lead performance. And it's very funny, very sweet. Like Bryan said, there's some moving parts in this that surprised me. Whether it's 100% true to life, we don't know, because Tommy Wiseau won't tell us. But nevertheless, there's a lot of truth found in this story, and that's the most important thing to me. And certainly it's one of the most entertaining movies of the year. I had a great time with this. It moves along very quickly and very fleet, but it doesn't feel like it's too short. And I very much enjoyed this. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off with some more like in-depth thoughts. Starting us off with
actually, let's flip it around, because I know all three of us, even with you not being as high, we have way more positives than negatives. So let's start with the negatives first and get them out of the way.
Yeah, true. Okay, so I guess I will give my negatives. One's, I don't want to say that it's like dire. It's just more serious than a nitpick. And I just want to say that with a big asterisk. It's not a huge problem. So I had just seen for the first time ever Ed Wood the night before, and obviously that movie is a big. This movie would not exist without Ed Wood, because this movie would not be thinkable without Ed Wood. It would be laughed at to think that we could make a movie about a bad filmmaker making a bad movie. But because of Ed Wood's influence, they were able to make this. However, I was surprised to see how closely they match up in terms of how the plot plays out. Maybe that's inherent in the fact that it's the story of a movie that's being made, and thus, all movies kind of have that same kind of skeleton of, pre-production, production, post-production, all that. So the movie does go down a path of predictability in that sense that you kind of know what's going to happen, even if you don't, just because of how they tell it as a very traditional tale. It very much follows a set skeleton of A to B to C. So I thought that it got a little familiar, but that's basically the only problem that I have. And it knocks my grade down from an A because that's a hang-up. The other things, I feel like it doesn't quite go deep enough with some of the supporting characters. Within that next week, we had seen The Post, which I thought gave a nice moment to each of the supporting characters with a big cast. And this movie doesn't really do that, but of course it focuses on Tommy Wiseau. So certainly that's just a nitpick, honestly. So that's really my two problems. I can't really think of anything else.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's that good, and it promises just so much good that even like what you said, like those issues that you have, they don't bother you as much, and so that the familiarity of the story doesn't really bother me at all because it was so well told. I guess some of the just kind of nitpicky things, maybe they went a little overboard with the cameos, just a hair. It almost felt a little too in your face, where it's like, okay, cool, James, we get it, you're friends with a lot of fucking people, but
there's Melanie Griffith. We haven't seen her since the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, it's not a problem. It was just something a little nitpick. Also, this is just a selfish thing. This is a selfish nitpick. I am very fascinated with filmmaking. I majored in it. This is my life. Bryan is currently going to school through it, and Joel has seen enough films where he's basically a filmmaker. I actually, on a selfish level, I wish this movie was maybe 10, 15 minutes longer, and I kind of wanted to see the post-production process. I wanted to see them cut this thing together and have them go, Tommy, we can't cut this into a movie. This is even salvageable. And, no, we can put this together.
There is sort of that avenue of the story missing.
Yeah,
I totally agree. They kind of jump from the movie being made to the premiere.
The premiere, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a selfish thing because the overall pace of the movie was actually, I thought, perfect, like you said, with the time it was given. On a selfish level, I could have seen 3 hours of this shit, and I really wanted to see the post-production process. But maybe this was a part of the book, because Greg wasn't probably involved with the post-production, because if they had a falling out like the movie claimed it had, he wasn't a part of that.
Yeah.
So, and if they're basing it off the book...
And he is the main character here, by the way.
Exactly,
Greg Sestero, they're co-leads, but the movie...
more focuses
primarily
on Greg.
is through his point of view. We're introduced to Tommy through his eyes.
Correct.
So absolutely, they do have a falling out. That's well known, and that's not a spoiler basically for anybody listening to this. That's very well known that they had a falling out. They got back together and made it up again, but it's very well known that they had a falling out, and it was at the exact point of the finishing of the movie. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, it could have been that. Tommy kind of went on, did his thing, and then that's why we're not seeing the post-production. But you're right. I mean, there's a 3-hour story to be told here. We could have seen that. That's just kind of why I preferred Ed Wood, which is a perfect movie, because they did go into the post-production of that of Plan 9 in there, and all the other movies that it featured, and. Yeah. So anyway, I'll let you go ahead. Sorry, I just had to jump in there.
No, I'm done with. Like I said, like it's hard to like actually pull out severe negatives and hinders anything for me. So Bryan, what about you? What are some of the minimal negatives that you have?
Yeah, I agree that I would have liked it to have gone into the post-production phase as well. Like, I texted you this, Chase. I told you that, like, there was an issue with the ADR. Like, Tommy supposedly ADR'd all his dialogue in this movie. I would have liked to see that aspect because they did bring up how the film was shot on both film and digital. Like, they brought that up, which to me is still baffling.
So
when I found that
stupid.
out, I was
and he bought the
exactly.
the equipment.
No. I don't rent equipment. I buy.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite lines from this movie. That part.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would have liked it to have been longer, but that's just a selfish thing. But other than that, there's really no problems I have with the movie. And I agree with you, Joe. Like, I think they could have done some more with some of the supporting characters. Like, some depth would have been nice. But you know what? In the end, it was mostly solid. There's like very little problems with this movie. So
it was also very much a down the middle comedy in a lot of respects. It has a dramatic center, but it's the forward motion was comic and it was an ensemble. So I totally understand that. That's sort of one of those selfish things for me. I kind of wanted to know, Carolyn Minot, the actress, she's played by Jackie Weaver. we get a little bit of insight into why she does this, in one of those scenes. Great line, and a great scene for her where she says, why not? We're actors and all that. It's just, anyway, now I'm jumping into my positives. I'm actually going to step away just for a minute. I'm going to let Chase get on with his positives. I know all of these already. So I will be back in a second, guys.
All right, so positives for this film. Get ready because I'm ready to gush about it. So the biggest positive I would have to say, you got to give all the props to this movie to James Franco. Not only did he direct this movie, which he did a wonderful job directing the balance between really laugh out loud, gut busting comedy, and also these heartfelt moments, which actually adhere from the script so well that when I looked up the writers, you realize that they wrote The Spectacular Now, 500 Days of Summer, and you're like, okay, these guys know what's up because they've done this before. And so the fact they applied that to this movie not only made probably the funniest movie they've ever written, but I would actually argue maybe the most heartfelt at its center, because this man, Tommy Wiseau, is so laughable. Amongst the movie, people don't take him seriously. They're confused by his accent. They're wondering where the hell he got his money from. But at the core, he's just a dude that wants to make a movie. He just wants to become famous and do something. And there's even a couple of moments, and Bryan knows what I'm talking about, to where you feel for the guy and you just want to see him succeed. And that's kind of heartbreaking because him and Greg are just these normal, average day dudes. And you're like, listen, I don't care how you do it. Just please finish your goals and, just finish them onward. So James Franco's direction and taking that script, huge props in the positive department because he really does nail it. Now, the biggest thing about the movie is how is Tommy Wiseau portrayed? Because he could have easily gone into the caricature route and he could have made it goofy and ridiculous, and I wouldn't have believed anything that man had to say. But what James Franco brought to the performance versus his direction is more somber and more energetic and mysterious, and he embodies this person. And I've seen Tommy in interviews, and of course I've watched The Room, and I know how he acts and how he talks. James did not do a caricature. He did a real good impersonation, but still capturing that character that you would need to portray him. Because if he would have gone the full goofy route, I wouldn't have taken him seriously. Those serious, dramatic moments wouldn't even matter to me. And that really hindered on his performance. So his direction, his performance, the top tier of the positivity. The second great thing that I love is the bond that he has with Greg. And listen, I told Joel this, and I know Bryan knows this, that I absolutely do not like this. I do not like nepotism at all in Hollywood. But you know what? I'll make an exception for this, because the fact that they were real-life brothers with Dave and James, they had that bond carrying over to Tommy and Greg, and it actually made a huge difference in the movie. Because like Joel said, this is Greg's story, and Tommy kind of comes in through the sidelines a little bit and kind of infiltrates Greg's story, and it becomes their story. And it could have easily been another actor, and they probably would have done a good job. But with Dave and James actually being real-life brothers, I felt that bond between them, and it actually portrayed itself on screen. Another thing I really liked about the movie is the fact that they paid extreme detailed attention to recreating those scenes in the room, and it was actually kind of magical to see them put so much effort into creating the props, the costumes, the locations, just the authenticity of the room. And there's even a little playful banter at the very end comparing the scenes from The Room and The Disaster Artist, recreating those scenes, and you can definitely see the passion.
Perfectly placed, by the way. And I'll get into that in my...
It's so good. But I know those scenes were meant there to make the audience laugh and stuff, but what I took away from that was James really had a passion for this material. He had a passion for the book. He has a passion for the movie and Tommy's life, and he took care of it. And that speaks volumes to me, was his passion throughout the project. Some other positives, I like all the supporting cast. Everyone does great. Seth Rogen as the script supervisor, or Paul Scheer as the lighting dude. It's like these little roles, they could have been anything. And I'm not saying that they have their moments because, like Joel said, they could have explored these supporting characters a little bit more. But what we got from them was good enough for me to kind of play into the realism of this entire thing. I believed everything. I even, like I said, Seth Rogen's the script supervisor. It was pretty amazing to watch. Other things, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I really enjoyed the ending of the movie because, just seeing this guy's work on screen. And we've all been there where, especially since I have entered a lot of film races and I've been through the filmmaking process and Bryan's going through the same thing, there's something satisfying, even if it's garbage, to see your project on screen because you're like, I did that. I am proud of myself. I did that. And the fact that Greg propped him up in the lobby like that and said, hey, listen, you made something that people enjoy. And I think that's something that rings true throughout the entire movie, and for people to leave the theater and go, that's right. Who cares if he made a bad movie? He made something, people enjoy it. Just take it and run with it. And I think Tommy's definitely embraced it
and
now.
how many people can say that they've done that? That's exactly the point.
Yeah,
of this movie. Yeah. I mean,
how many
it's
fucking
so true.
people have made a feature-length film? I don't want to hear it. Yes, is The Room a bad movie? Yes, it is. But at least this man had a vision. He stuck with it. He did his thing. Yes, and is he a mysterious person to where we don't know the money came from? Sure. But what he did and his passions are what ring true with people. And when we get to the box office, I didn't read the numbers. I'll guarantee you this movie sung with people in a very positive way.
Oh, it did.
So that's what I'm saying. So this movie is inspirational. It's from the same dudes that wrote two of my favorite romance movies in the past 5 years. So I have really no issues with this movie. It is one of the best of the year about a movie of the making of a bad movie. It's just incredible that this has come full circle. Tommy Wiseau, mark my words, is going to be at the Oscars this year, and this is a man who had nothing and just made a movie with some dude named Greg, and now he's actually going to be at the Oscars about or representing a movie based on his movie. What the fuck is happening with this world? So, guys, I can't express to you how much I love this movie, but I think what you have to take away from it is people are going to rave about the comedy. That's totally acceptable. It's a very funny movie. But you have to realize this is a comedy with heart. It's got a lot of it, and it's extremely infectious. When you leave this movie, you're like, I am so glad, even though it was terrible, that these two made a movie. And now we get to reap the benefits and seeing a movie based on that movie. So, Bryan, I can't talk about it anymore. That's pretty much it. So, preach, brother. What do you got for us?
The rules to the class are simple. Any question before we start?
That's another of my favorite parts.
Don't talk about me to anyone. Not the class. Not to anybody. Listen, this is what I've been doing for the last week since I saw it with 3 of my friends from school. We've been quoting this movie nonstop for the last week. We saw this last Saturday. Okay, listen. See, I live in New Jersey, for people who don't know. Right now where I am is about a half hour from New York City. So we decided at the last minute to take a train to New York City to go see this movie. We went opening weekend. It hadn't opened in Jersey yet, so we just decided to get on a train, go to see it in Lincoln Center. It's easily my favorite movie theater experience of the whole year. Everyone there clearly had a love for The Room. You could tell everyone was laughing when they brought up The Room, all those lines. Everyone was laughing at the movie in general. Everyone was aw during the sad moments. It was one of my favorite movie theater experiences of my life. Probably my favorite since I saw The Hateful Eight in 70mm. And I just think that the movie all around is just absolutely phenomenal. Like you said, Chase, it's all because of James Franco. This guy just brought it front to center, and clearly he has a passion for the book, The Room, Tommy Wiseau. Just he showed a lot of passion and dedication when making this movie. I didn't think he was going to direct this movie as well as he did, and he really directed this film beautifully. And then his performance is one of my favorites of the year. I hope to God he gets nominated for an Oscar. I think it will be a huge crime if he does not get nominated for this. And the screenplay, too, is terrific. It's a great mix of the drama and comedy. Like you said, the guys who wrote this wrote 500 Days of Summer. They wrote Spectacular Now, and they also wrote Fault in Our Stars. These writers are terrific with everything they've slapped their names on in Hollywood, and the dialogue is just amazing. Like I said, I can't stop quoting this movie. It's insane how all the dialogue and everything, the Big Easy, New Orleans, all that stuff. Like it's just great. Like it's just powerful dialogue, and you would think in a comedy that it wouldn't be, but somehow these two writers and James Franco, they find a way to do it so well, and it just impresses me. Screenplays, writing's my favorite thing to do in filmmaking, and when you don't have a good screenplay, there's a huge problem. And this is one of the year's best screenplays. It's just so beautifully handled, the story, and I just really love it so much. And with the acting, James is incredible. Dave surprised the hell out of me. I'm not really a big fan of him. I like him I like the stuff he's in, but I never really found him to be that strong of an actor, comedically or dramatically, and somehow he really crushed it here. And like you said, Chase, nepotism in Hollywood is so fucking annoying, but somehow it just works beautifully here, because since they're brothers in real life, the bond that they portrayed in this movie as Tommy and Greg was just perfect. It worked somehow, and it was great. Seth Rogen did good. Paul Scheer is the light-in guy, cinematographer. I forgot what he was. He was great. Let me tell you. So when I saw this movie last week, the guy I was sitting next to, Alex, he's one of my best friends here at school. He's a huge film nerd, probably honestly somewhat on the levels of all three of us. So it's great. And when you first see Josh Hutcherson as Denis, he couldn't stop laughing because it was close to perfect. The look was just so the hair, it was perfect. And then when Zac Efron comes in as Chris Art, oh my God. I lost my shit. I was so happy that they got it down so perfectly.
Oh, man.
I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's just so great. And like you said, Chase, when they did the shot for shots of the room with this movie, it felt magical in the sense it kind of reminded me of when I saw Saving Mr. Banks, and at the end when they were watching Mary Poppins on screen in some senses. And it just felt so beautiful. And this is coming from a movie that is so terrible, but somehow a lot of us just love it so much. I think that it's amazing for a film about the making of a bad film ended up being one of the year's best, and I think it's a film that everyone can enjoy. If you're a fan of the cast, fan of the source material, it's just so great, and it continues to show that A24 is continuously throwing out so many phenomenal films this year with Good Time, Florida Project, Lady Bird, and this, they just continue to do this, and it just amazes me so much. I hope this gets a lot of award recognition. I don't think it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. If it does, that's awesome. The big award it has to get nominated for is James Franco for Best Actor. If it gets a Best Adapted Screenplay, that's awesome too. I also really liked how the film was shot on film. It looked really great. It was fast-paced, one of the fastest-paced films I've seen in years. Like I said, I do wish it was longer, but the pacing works perfectly well. And that in the last 20 minutes, everything with the premiere, it really is touching. If you don't at least feel bad for Tommy in the end, at least go on. You kind of feel for him. And, like you guys say, who else could say that they went out to make a feature film? Tommy Wiseau did it. And he's a fucking alien. He's a madman. He's a genius. So, I love nearly everything about this movie, and it's just pretty solid from start to finish, and it's a great time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And for people who haven't seen this movie yet, you need to stay after the credits, because there's an amazing after credits scene. And
that I missed.
God damn it, Joel, you motherfucker.
I know. Well, I had to go to
Joel had to pee like a human. How fucking weird of you.
You couldn't hold it in for 5
oddball
minutes. You couldn't hold it in for 5 minutes, Joel.
Well, and just to piggyback off of what you said, Brian, I'll let Joel talk. Is you want to know how powerful this movie was in terms of just inspirational, like just hope and just heartfelt sadness? Was when Joel and I were in the theater. It was a packed theater. When the comedy was there, and James was doing his Tommy impression, there were people in the front row losing their mind, and I didn't think they were going to like quiet down when he was going to become serious and start crying and whatnot in the movie. But believe it or not, James Franco commands so much attention on screen when he switches from doing that crazy accent to doing that crazy accent while crying. People shut up in our audience, and like people were drawn
same for
in.
My audience.
It was amazing to witness the command that he had, and so. Yeah, just overall, I can't praise it enough, and I think you're right. It's got two definite nominations for sure: adapted screenplay and best lead performance in the males. So, as far as everything else is kind of up in the air, but I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, and there's one last line I have to say before we talk to Joel. How old are you? Greg age. You're 19. I just turned 14. Aha! Happy
birthday! Like it's so great because that's the scene they're using to promote in the short little YouTube ads, and it's perfect setup. So
happy birthday,
Joel, take it away, sir. Is there anything we missed? And just gush about it.
Right. I mean, there's really nothing. I would just like to copy and paste everything you guys said, but I will go into my thoughts. They're mostly the same. To be completely honest, but to start at the top, James Franco. It's not the best performance I've seen this year. It's very close though. It's probably my choice for best actor. I have to see a couple of movies, but nevertheless, it's certainly up there for me. And the reason is because it's a really difficult performance to give. Because what you have to do is you have to understand that Tommy Wiseau is an egomaniac. And then you have to understand that you have to make him at least, if not likable, then at least understandable. Like, you in this movie, by grasping his desire to be the next Tennessee Williams, the next Marlon Brando, as an actor.
The next
and
James
you
Dean.
do. The next James Dean, exactly. He basically cribbed the "You're tearing me apart, Lisa" line from I think it was either Giant or Rebel Without a Cause.
It was Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause. That's right. So, I mean, it's clear he wanted to be in that category. And side note, it's not entirely impossible for him to be in that category. He just has to recognize some things about himself first. But anyway, whatever. And again, I mean, this is a movie about that desire and how it gets him to this point of making this terrible movie, but not with a lack of trying. And Franco is able to, one, give a spot-on impersonation. And that's important, kind of. But more important is actually building a character from the ground up that is worth following. And this is a hard person to do that with, but he's able to do it because he's a skilled actor who understands that he's got to connect with the audience. And he does that so well. He's funny in his impersonation of his quirks, the drooping eye, the weird, stance that he has whenever he's walking or standing or any sort of moving, the game of football, all of these different things that are idiosyncratic about Tommy Wiseau. He gets perfectly right, but it's not a caricature. It's not a joke performance. He's genuinely, it's a genuine performance, and it's the film's best trick, kind of. And aside from this idea that, like Brian said, making a movie that's really, really good about a movie that's really awful and making it compelling and not making fun of the movie, but praising the movie's existence as something that got made by human intelligence. And also, I got to take issue with a lot of people who recently have been saying that this movie is forgiving of Tommy Wiseau. I don't think it is. That's easy to say that it is because that's easily the route that it could have gone down. It could have excused him for a lot of the stuff that he does here, and he does a lot of two-faced things. There is a reason that he and Greg Sestero have a falling out, and it's Tommy's fault. And he's too secretive, and then there's some other problems. Alert, 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 the movie's kind of sexist. So The Room is kind of sexist. So the movie that he makes. And, I mean, it's just such a delicate balancing act. And so moving on from there, Bryan's right, it's really solidly made. It's not really a movie that you talk about the filmmaking for. It's really more about screenplay, acting. But he directs it solidly. The cinematography is crisp. And the film editing it's some of the best film editing of the year. There's really solid comic editing. There's really solid dramatic, forward motion. It's really well put together, even though it's mostly montages, and that's an easy trap to fall into. It doesn't do that. But then you also have this, and I wanted to bring this up because people will be wondering, okay, how are the recreations of the most famous or infamous, however you look at it, scenes in The Room? And we just have to repeat that basically 98% of them are right at the end. And I think that that's perfect because it's something that I don't know if everybody watches. They should be watching, but I don't know if everybody watches What the Flick on YouTube. But they reviewed this. They reviewed this a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if you remember this, Bryan, but Ben Mankiewicz was saying that he had not seen The Room. He hadn't even heard about it until all this started, and it played for him as excessively as it played for Alonso Duralde, who saw it, before it became a cult hit. And so, I mean, that's important. And he said part of the reason is because they decided to play those scenes at the end rather than just randomly scattering them throughout. That would have turned him off of The Room because he wouldn't have understood what was going on. So what they did was, and also they didn't just randomly insert the comparison scenes into the movie. Instead, they play, most of them at the end, and we get to see side by side, that everybody's pretty much perfectly on the mark, especially Ari Graynor, who plays the actress who plays Lisa. I mean, I was shocked. You watch that, and it's perfect. It's not nearly perfect. It's perfect. Every single line of dialogue that she does, she is right on target, right alongside Juliette Danielle, who played who played Lisa in The Room. It is a perfectly matched performance. And yeah, I mean, it's just a solid supporting cast. Whatever complaints I had about them not being fleshed out, I'm not complaining about the actors because they are all great here. And Paul Scheer really surprised me. I'm not familiar with him very much, so this was kind of not. I'm sure it's not the first thing, but it's the first thing I consciously saw him in, and he's really good at this guy who's just slowly becoming more annoyed by the director, this dictator that's telling him what to do, and really solid. It's just a fun but also sincere movie that is really solidly constructed and acted and written. The screenplay is fantastic. I think it might be honestly my choice for adapted screenplay. I'm gonna have to look back, but it's up there for sure. And despite the familiar structure, it's not something that bothered me so much. It was just a little hang up that they might have been able to take a little bit of a different, more avant-garde approach to this. But nevertheless, whatever the case, it's a really, really, really good movie, really entertaining, surprisingly, profound kind of in a way, in some sneaky ways, particularly at the end when it finally makes an argument for this kind of creative drive, and it's just really good. So yeah, absolutely. I'm going to hand it over to Chase for his final thoughts and grade, even though we probably all know what it is.
I mean, I love it. It's in my top 10. I'm giving it an A. It deserves it. A. I'm cool with giving it that. Maybe the more times I watch it, maybe I can bump it up to that prestigious grade. But for right now, I'm comfortable with just giving it straight up an A. So Brian, where are you kind of ranking this throughout the year, and then where's your grade?
It's right now on my bottom 5 of my top 10. There's a lot. My top 5 films of this year. I don't know if there's any way for either one of or any of them to be below. Like my top 3 are staying my top 3. My top 3 films are A24 films. I'm just going to say it right now. And which I never expected to happen in my life, which is a great thing. And this one is in my there's other than this, there's another A24. So half my top 10 list is A24. That's insane. And that showcases that they've had a great year this year, and The Disaster Artist is no exception. Really funny, super heartfelt, excellent direction by Franco, wonderful lead performance, superb writing, all around fantastic film. I'm going to give it an A as well.
All right, Joel, what do you got?
Me, that minor hiccup causes me to give it an A-, but I mean that's a really strong rating. You all know how tough I am generally, so it's definitely like somewhere in my top 20, top 15, something like that. It's up there, and yeah, I kind of loved it. So for sure, those are our ratings: A-.
So basically, what we're saying is, go see it. Don't hesitate. So
it is a terrible movie. You should skip it. I'm just kidding.
It's on par with The Room. No. So Joel, here's what we're gonna do. Go ahead and do your mini reviews real fast. Joel's gonna update you guys on some more indie flicks. Do those pretty quickly, and then we actually skipped your Oscar segment. So go ahead and just kind of bleed into that, and then we'll get into the box office.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of fitting because one of these is in this movie, and then two of the ones I'm about to review are big in the categories that I'm going to be talking about. So we did skip that. I'll be doing that right before the box office. So I'm going to be offering you 3 extra reviews today, guys. Extra. I know that y'all are excited about that. So the first one, I'm just going to kind of get it out of the way. I'm going to go from my lowest to my highest score, and I'm just going to get this out of the way. It's Darkest Hour. This is the new film from director Joe Wright of Atonement and Pride and Prejudice. Anna Karenina, solid director. This is an okay one. I'm just going to say that. Initially, the positives are undeniably Gary Oldman. He plays Winston Churchill as he ascends to the position of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This is after a lot of very political deliberations following Neville Chamberlain's run that left everybody disappointed with his how he led these initial steps that would lead to World War II with Germany as Hitler's forces rise and they surround the British Army at Dunkirk and Calais in France. It's okay. Oldman's terrific. The movie's terrifically produced. Like, the cinematography is beautiful. Bruno Delbonnel, the guy who shot Inside Llewyn Davis for the Coens, shot Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Obviously, that means that he's pretty terrific work here. I mean, it's given. Production design is impressive, particularly when it kind of shifts very briefly to the battle scenes on the beaches. We get to see some really impressive carnage, or the aftermath of carnage, I should say. So that's all terrific. It's terrific looking. It's very well made, but that can only get you so far. And this movie just kind of tells you history without really trying to, give it much in the way of insight. It also papers over a lot about Winston Churchill that is unseemly. He was certainly a hero of this situation, but he was very controversial otherwise, and this movie doesn't really talk about that, and that's because it's specifically circling around this situation. So we get a lot of the sense of the leader, but not really much of a sense of the man, and that's why I'm going to give Darkest Hour a C+. So that's basically that out of the way. a bit of a disappointment. I know it's really well liked right now, and it's probably going to win Gary Oldman an Oscar, but there are better performances this year, honestly. We just talked about one, to be honest. I think, at least, slightly better. So the next one is going to be Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This one is the new film from director Martin McDonagh of In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths. This one stars Frances McDormand as a woman whose daughter was raped, murdered, and immolated, left on the grass underneath the billboard. She rents out that billboard and the other two surrounding it 100 yards from her house in order to send a message to the police that they're not doing their job. They didn't investigate the crime properly. This sends her into sort of loggerheads with the sheriff, I guess it's sheriff, whatever, played by Woody Harrelson, his character is dying from pancreatic cancer, and so he just doesn't want to deal with this right now, and she decides that she's going to go ahead with it, and along the way she butts heads with a semi-quasi-racist cop played by Sam Rockwell in one of the year's best performances. And this one's really good. I am maybe slightly less positive than a lot of other people. It's not going to be in my top 10, but it is certainly going to be a top 10 contender. It's going to be right outside the list somewhere. The reason is because, and I'm just going to get to the negative, I think that this movie ends on the wrong note. I'm not going to give anything away, but two characters are presented with a choice that feels false, and thus, whatever they decide around that choice, it will feel like a simplistic definition of their humanity, and this is not a movie that otherwise has simplistic definitions of humanity. It's very much about unexpected sympathies found in people you wouldn't think had that level of sympathy, and that's what carries this movie through. It's pretty superb, but it does end on that weird note of okay, why did you do this? Performances are superb across the board. Rockwell's the best, but McDormand's also great as this woman who's essentially broken. She answers everything with sarcasm. She's headstrong, but basically fighting to be at this point. Woody Harrelson's pretty terrific. There's this great scene in an interrogation where he's asked to be the cop, and then suffers a moment of humiliation because of his disease, and thus, it's just kind of this well-rounded performance that is just terrific, and the filmmaking is really rock solid. There's this stretch after a character exits the movie that where Sam Rockwell's character walks from the station to a building across the street, and it's all done in one take, and it's one of the best movie moments of the year. Bryan knows what I'm talking about. He's seen this. And yeah, so that movie is really excellent, flawed, but ambitious, and I'm going to be giving that one a B+. Okay. These are going way faster than I thought, so that's good. But that's good because I'm probably going to spend the longest on our last one, and that is Lady Bird. This one is I'm just going to say this is the best film of the year. And I don't like saying that before I actually give my top 10, but I'm just going to say that it's the best film of the year. It's Gene Siskel once said that basically he chooses the movies as number one that gave him the furthest scope of human emotion of any movie that year, gave him the impressed him the most. This movie's that for me. I don't have any problems. I'm just going to give away my grade right now, and then I'll talk about the movie. I'm giving it an A+. It's a perfect movie. It's from director Greta Gerwig. This is her first solo project as director and writer. She's co-written before, she's co-directed before, but this is her first in both roles solo. And whatever that means. It's the breakthrough debut of the year, or whatever. It's also the most impressive directorial feat of the year for me, in that she directs semi-autobiographically a lot of a year of her life. This one stars Saoirse Ronan as a young woman named Christine, who would rather be called Lady Bird. And Lady Bird is in her last year of Catholic high school. She's headed off to college. She really wants to find a college on the other side of the United States because she's bored of her life in Sacramento. And so, she's looking for colleges while her parents, played by Laurie Metcalf and Tracy Letts, kind of deal with her in opposing ways that kind of cause a lot of grief. And she meets a couple of guys that she falls for, played by Timothée Chalamet and Lucas Hedges, who end up being disappointing in different ways. She makes friends with, or she has a best friend in the whole world, played by Beanie Feldstein, and then she kind of drops her because she starts to lose sight of herself. And it's in this way that's incredibly relevant and universal, but also specific to this character, because you feel like this literally happened in Greta Gerwig's life, and she's just relaying it with a lot of understanding about what it meant later on in life. And I mean, it's impossible to feel like 17-year-old girls everywhere who see this movie won't take away something from it that they recognize. Obviously, the part of this conversation that's happening this year is that female characters shouldn't just be broadly empowering or said to be broadly empowering, because that's not as interesting as being specifically empowering. And here we have somebody that is going through very specific problems, but problems that real people will be able to relate to. I saw stuff in here that I related to, and it's so it crosses genders as well, and it's just a beautiful movie, a very personal movie, obviously, and it's the best thing that I've seen this year. I doubt that changes, and it's from A24. It's one of their best movies. It's somewhere near the top of the decade for me. So obviously I give Lady Bird an F. You should probably never see it ever in your life. So there you go. And so those are my mini reviews. I know that Chase has seen Darkest Hour. Chase, briefly, did you agree with me?
100%. C+. I don't know why everyone's praising this thing. Gary Oldman, that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
My reviews of Darkest Hour and Lady Bird.
I mean, Lady Bird, you loved Lady Bird as well. You gave that one an A+, I know. So I know that you pretty much feel the same way as me. Placement within the year, or not, you were up there as well in your rating. So I know that you love that one. You can watch both of his reviews at his channel. There, I did your plug for you. And then I know that Bryan over there has seen Lady Bird, and he kind of enjoyed it a little bit, right, Bryan?
Yes.
Yeah. You can read his review at Letterboxd. I know that you're on Letterboxd, right? So it's there. So then, and what did you think of Three Billboards?
Loved it as well. I agree with you. The ending, not the best ending, but I still I love the movie a lot. I don't think it's like a 5-star movie like everyone claims it is. It's like a 4.5 for me. So I still really had a great time with it. So
yeah, I'm on Letterboxd as well. I gave it 4 over there, 3.5 on my website. So it's in that same arena. Certainly, and so yeah, those are my extra reviews. I think we'll have 3 more next week. Just kind of getting some of these smaller movies out of the way. And with that, I will shift over to my Oscar prediction part of this podcast, because we have a couple of big categories to talk about. So first up, we're going to talk about adapted screenplay, because this is really shaping up to be something special. There hasn't been a whole lot of movement from the critic awards. It's pretty much gone the way you think it has. Generally speaking, I feel like Stronger is still somewhere in here. That one was written by John Polono. It's his first screenplay. It's a really solid structure, terrific movie, and I feel like that's going to translate over to the Academy. I think that they'll respond strongly to it. Also, The Disaster Artist. I feel like it does have a chance to be nominated in here. And Molly's Game, we have seen. We can talk about that, right, Chase? Oh yeah, can we talk about that one yet?
We're treading thin ice because I really don't know, but I will say that Joel and I think the same on the movie, and let's just say this: lower your expectations.
Yeah, it's probably going to be the one here where I could do without it winning. I don't think it's going to win though, because this clearly has two big, strong contenders right at the top: Mudbound from Dee Rees and Virgil Williams, sorry, from the novel. It's a really good movie, and it's one that also has a unique structure. Although you might not think it because of the whole middle section, but it does have a unique structure. It uses the flashback structure in a pretty fascinating way, and I feel like the Academy is going to really respond to this one. But the absolute front runner, the thing that's basically winning every award right now, is Call Me by Your Name. It's a screenplay by James Ivory, who's a 90-year-old guy. They're going to want to give it to him, first of all, and also because he's well respected. He's the guy behind the Merchant Ivory productions of the 90s and 80s, stuff like Remains of the Day, Room with a View, I think, and Howard's End and all that. Basically period pieces set in the early 1900s. This one's, I think, 1950s. But it's the same thing. It's based on a beloved novel by Andrea Seaman, or however you say his name, and it's winning every award. It's just taking over basically. So that's likely going to be the one that's the winner. Right outside, I think Wonder is kind of sneaking up here. It's really got a lot of firepower behind it in terms of the box office, which means that the Academy members will want to pay attention to it, as you will see in the box office numbers when I get to those. And it's apparently really good. I haven't seen it, and I don't think... Chase, you haven't seen it, right?
No.
No, okay. Bryan, have you seen Wonder?
The family went to go see it without me, so no, I have not seen it.
That was a lovely little edge of bitterness. I love that. I want you to do that more often. Okay, so love you, man.
Love you too.
But yeah, so I think that's right on the outside. But again, I think the nominees have been kind of confirmed for the last few weeks. So unless something random shifts, we're looking at Call Me by Your Name, which is going to win, The Disaster Artist, Molly's Game, Mudbound, and Stronger. I think that those are the 5 nominees in Best Adapted Screenplay right now. Let's see. So the Best Original Screenplay has shifted a lot in the last few weeks. The frontrunners have kind of remained the same, but there's a lot of movies that really could get shoved in here. So it's become an interesting race to watch in general. It's a very competitive year in all categories, but this one is one of the more competitive ones. I feel like Phantom Thread has kind of wormed its way into the conversation in a big way, because I can't remember, I think it was 2 different groups awarded Paul Thomas Anderson for the screenplay. So I feel like this is putting it on the map, and I feel like because of that, it's knocked out the possible spoiler, which is The Big Sick, which is a screenplay by Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon about their love life. But, Phantom Thread, I mean, it's, Paul Thomas Anderson got nominated out of nowhere for Inherent Vice a couple years ago. Nobody was predicting that. And so I feel like he could probably sneak in. I feel like we just have seen it better this time from afar. Also, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Obviously, Martin McDonagh is a at least based on In Bruges, is a favorite of the Academy, and this one's going to translate in a major way. It's a Best Picture contender. It's just really solid work all around. Speaking of really solid work all around, The Post from Liz Hannah and Josh Singer. That's an obvious choice. It's a Steven Spielberg movie. It's very relevant. It's probably the most relevant movie of the year, and it's well, except for maybe another one that I'm about to mention, but obviously, I mean, it comes from the co-screenwriter of Spotlight, so it's just one of those movies. It hits all the spots, and it's going to be nominated. Also, Greta Gerwig, Lady Bird. I really want this movie to win. I don't think it will, but I want it to. It could. She's been winning a few critic awards, which puts her on the map for the Academy. I'm really hoping that happens, but honestly, I watched it again last week, and it convinced me Get Out is going to win this award. This movie has taken the critics by storm. It's like everybody's number one that's been, or almost everybody's number one that's been releasing a top 10 at this point. And if it's not that, it's something like Lady Bird or Call Me By Your Name. So there's a consensus being formed around these 3 movies, and if there's any sort of front runner right now for Best Picture, and I don't really think there is, then it's probably circling around these 3. And I think that part of the reason is because of Get Out's screenplay, which is this really sharp satire, very serious movie that tackles racism. It's really solid work all around. And so I think that the nominees for this one are going to be Get Out, Lady Bird, The Post, Phantom Thread, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, with The Big Sick right outside. And I really hope that The Shape of Water gets in. Doesn't really seem like it's going to happen, but we'll see. I've seen that movie, and it's amazing. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for Best Original Screenplay and Best Adapted Screenplay. On the January 14th episode is when I'll be back with this stuff. I think January 7th is when I'll be back with this stuff to talk about. Chase, when is it? No, I think it's next week. Or it's the next episode that we have. It's the next episode that we have, which is over Christmas Eve, and I'll be talking about Best Supporting Actor and Actress. So, just keep a lookout for that. And until then, enjoy following the stuff if you follow the stuff. I certainly am. It's been a really competitive season. So.
Yeah, the Oscar season shaping up to be probably the most unpredictable one I've seen in years, which is always fascinating because I don't want to see predictability with this shit. I want to be surprised for the full 3-hour ceremony or half-a-day ceremony, whatever. So Bryan looks like he's about to pass out over there, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up with the box office results for the weekend. And in order to wake Bryan's ass up, Bryan's going to guess this week. So, Bryan, would you like to take a stab at
I'll just give you, and I'll just remind people of the rules here that I decided to put in. So the rules are basically, at least on my front, when I do this, is I'm going to give you a clue or give you a hint of a movie that is in the top 10 that could be in the top 5. It might not be in the top 5, but it could be, right?
What a dick move.
I know, right? So your one hint, because it's the only wide release from this week, is the movie Just Getting Started, which you probably didn't even know existed, but it's with Morgan Freeman, Tommy Lee Jones, and Rene Russo. Never a sentence I thought I'd say that you don't know this movie exists, but that's your one hint, so Bryan, guess.
Okay, number 5. Now
remember to think back to releases, because Chase and I commonly fall into this trap of forgetting things. So
Okay, number 5. I'm going to say Thor Ragnarok. Number 4, I'm going to say Disaster Artist. 3 Wonder, 2 Justice League, and 1 Coco.
Okay, Brian, I have to ask you before. Okay, just to make sure you were telling us the truth. Did you look at anything?
No.
You didn't look at anything.
Absolutely positive.
Are you fucking
Chase?
serious?
I'm absolutely positive.
You just nailed it, all 5.
Yeah, you just nailed all 5. Okay, so here's the rundown. Thor Ragnarok is at number 5. It dropped from number 4. It made $6.3 million this week for a total of $301.2 million. It's got a $180 budget. That probably paid for somebody's catering. Yeah, I mean, this thing is doing really well. Obviously, it's worldwide, it's at 833.2, so it's creeping up there to $1 billion. Probably not going to get there until maybe next year, I guess, early next year. But I could see it getting there in theaters to $1 billion. Number 4 is indeed The Disaster Artist, rising up for number 12. It made $6.4 million for a total of $8 million. It rose 431.3% from the previous week because it added 821 theaters, so that's pretty good news. And worldwide, it's at 9.7. So, I think that this thing was actually featured in the Independent Spirit Awards, so it obviously cost like less than $25 million. I think that's the cutoff. So they likely, that's obviously not made its money back, technically, possibly, but I don't think they care. Number 3 is indeed Wonder, holding its place at number 3 with 8.5 million for a total of $100 million. So this thing is impressing majorly. Also an unlisted budget, but I can't imagine that it cost a whole lot. It's probably something like 50, 60. And then, number 2, keeping its space at number 2 is Justice League with 9.6 million. It's made 212.1. Unlisted budget, but the rumor is around 300. They're not doing well, and that's the thing that I was going to tell y'all, that it's at 613.4 worldwide, which, now it's doubled its budget, but it's still not impressing because it has to make like $750 million. So, whatever. Number 1 is indeed Coco, one of the best films of the year. I'm so happy, and it's like twice as much as Justice League. It made $18.3 million for a total of $135.5. Worldwide, it's at $389.5. So this thing is killing. I love it. It likely cost like $60 million. I think Chase and I were talking about that last week, or the week before last, I should say. That this thing probably didn't cost a whole lot, which means that it's making a lot of moolah for Disney to buy Fox with. And then, so that's basically it. And then just to mention, Just Getting Started opened at number 10 with $3.2 million on a $22 million budget. And you know why? It's because nobody knew this movie was coming out. So here's the weird story of Just Getting Started. They buried it. They buried it in the weekend before Star Wars, in the week that a bunch of stuff was expanding that people were going to be interested in. And then they refused to screen it for critics, and so a lot of the critics were catching up on screeners. Thus, on Friday afternoon, there were still no reviews. At 1 p.m., there were no reviews for this movie. And then finally, they started trickling in that evening once the critics who see everything saw this movie. But I'm telling you, this movie was buried. Nobody knew it came out. It had no marketing to speak of. And so they got their just rewards. All right, so this week also saw the limited release of I, Tonya in 4 theaters. It made $245,000. That's actually pretty impressive. They... people obviously want to see the story of Tonya Harding. It opened at number 19. And why wouldn't they? It's a fascinating story. So that's the only limited release. A couple of big rises. I already mentioned Disaster Artist. The Shape of Water rose from number 20 to number 13, 506.4%. Darkest Hour from 26 to 15, 617%. Made $777,000. Let's see. Oh, and The Shape of Water made 1.1. Yes. Mountain Between Us, for some reason, decided to raise 351.3%, even though nobody remembers that movie or what it's about. The the smallest raise I think I've ever seen is Tyler Perry's Boo 2 A Medea Halloween, which rose from 27 to 23 with a 0.2% raise. Made $104,000. So $104,000 worth of people actually decided to go see that movie this week. I guess it's better than seeing Friend Request in its 17th week of of its run. And that's basically it. There weren't any like huge drops to speak of. And let's see. Yeah, I'm flipping through here. I mean, the Titanic 20th anniversary. Nobody cares about that. So anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. We all know that next week is going to be a very quiet week at the box office. Nothing's coming out. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe Ferdinand will be number one. That's probably very likely. So. Yeah, no. Star Wars is gonna murder everybody in its path. It's gonna make like $700 zillion in one day, especially after the big reactions from last night's premiere. So I don't know. I'm excited about that. I'm seeing it on Thursday. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars nut. I know Chase couldn't care less. I'm just kidding. No. I know Chase. You're seeing it like on next Tuesday. So. Anyway, I'm excited, and that's what we're reviewing. By the way, I guess I should tell them, we're not reviewing anything next week. We are waiting until the 24th. You're going to get your Star Wars review about a week after it comes out. That gives it time to kind of calm down. It also gives Chase time to come back. And then we'll also be reviewing some other movies. I think Shape of Water. We'll try to, at least I will review that one. Not the Greatest Showman. Call Me by Your Name and Molly's Game. We're going to be talking about those as well. So yeah, Chase, talk for a little bit because my voice is gone.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to not talk about The Greatest Showman, which I saw earlier this morning. I don't know if there's an embargo on it, but I can tell you that you can stay away from it. So you can spray some off spray on it and just make sure it doesn't sting you. Yeah, so I'm excited to come back next week, have a little breathing room so that way everyone can do all their Star Wars reviews and Joel and I can come in fashionably late with ours a week later because we're cool like that. But that's okay. We know that you guys will wait patiently, and I appreciate that. I'll be out of town. That's why we're doing this. So it'll be a lot of fun. So thank you for Joel for the box office results. What a fascinating week indeed. I cannot believe Wonder, a little movie that could made $100 million. So with that ending, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Bryan looks like he's about to pass out because he's still going to butt chug a beer before he goes to bed because he's in college. That's what college kids do. See that joke wrapped around 3 hours later. Bryan, where can the people find you online?
Find me on Twitter at Film Junkie Bryan, and I'm just gonna promote this for the hell of it because I've been writing excessively on my Letterboxd. Letterboxd.com/Bryan_Sudfield.
Awesome. And so, Joel, where can the lovely people go hunt down your reviews and bastardize them with their comments?
Oh God. Now people are going to do that. I welcome it. So I am also on Letterboxd. I'm at J Copling. You can follow me there if you're on. If you're not, get on that site because it's really useful. Chase. Okay. I love you, Chase. And then you can also find me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling. You can find my writing at joelonfilm.com. I only reviewed Darkest Hour and The Disaster Artist in print this week. And then I'm only reviewing Star Wars next week, but I have like a big boatload of them over Christmas, so you'll have that to look forward to. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can also find it at DallasMovieScreenings.com. We did a joint review of Disaster Artist over there that you can read/watch. And
which,
yeah.
By the way, that has probably my favorite headline that I've come up with
yes.
For our joint review so far. So
it's a very clever one.
Go read that one. And yeah, if you guys want to know my more in depth of like Darkest Hour and Lady Bird YouTube channel, it's that's where I actually posted up 11 reviews yesterday. So go get on that shit. So if you want to know some more in-depth stuff or just bonus reviews, go check that out. And most importantly, please support this podcast. Go spread it around. Do what you guys need to do. If you guys listen to this while you're working out or taking dumps or having sex, I don't give a fuck. Like, we just appreciate the support.
And then just let us know how you listen to it while having sex.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what position, what time of day. Like, no, I'm just kidding. Now we're getting into creepo territory. We love you guys. No, we really do appreciate you guys listening every single week. we don't do the show without you guys. Like, we just love talking to the small group out there that just continues to support us. And hey, listen, if you made it through this entire movie podcast and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully we can convince you to be one. All the links will be in the description below. Bryan's, Joel's, and myself. And we'll see you guys for episode 210, where we will do Star Wars and a bunch of indie movies to wrap up the year. So we will see you guys next time. Play that outro music, which is done by my friends band Fervent Roze. Peace out, everyone. Star Wars next week or 2 weeks from now. Bye-bye.